what's the difference between DIY and doing it yourself? It's the difference between a part-time passion and a full-time business. Wix gives you the power to turn your passion into a moneymaker. With a website that fits your unique vision, let your ideas flow with AI that guides you, but keeps you in the driver's seat. Manage your business from one dashboard and keep it growing with built-in marketing features. It's time to turn your daydream into your dream job. Go to Wix.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
You have to control yourself!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking they're in the yard, not too far from the car. We're talking I'm not wasting my time arguing with a man who's signing up to be a hot lunch. And we're talking my husband tells me you're in Sharks. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking what? I know, my favorite line of the whole fucking movie. Everyone, we clued you in a month ago, and many of you figured it out, but we are discussing Steven Spielberg's Jaws for its 50th anniversary.
Yes, so Shark movie, the famous one, the one that changes everything.
The one that changes everything. And I do believe, Joe, this is the first Jaws film we've covered on the main feed, though we do, correct me if I'm wrong, have an audio commentary on Jaws 2 on the Patreon?
We do indeed, because you really wanted me to watch the one that is a slasher film. Those are your words, and I quite liked it.
Yeah, no, I think it's, when we first started doing this podcast, like, you had, it's not that you don't like Jaws, I think that you just aren't as enamored with Jaws as many people are. And I was like, well, I'm going to make you watch the sequel because it's great.
There we go. And I'm not going to lie, rewatching this, I thought this is a great movie, but it's not like the scariest film I've ever seen. It's not going to scare me out of going into the water. And part of that, I think, is like the 50 years removed. But I do feel like I've had my back up against all of these. No, it's such a good fucking movie. In part because I have some issues with the pacing. But yeah, I just think there's a bunch of other films that are doing the Jaws thing, and maybe I just saw them first or appreciate them more, but this is a solid film. It doesn't work for me the way that it does for a lot of other folks.
Yeah, this is definitely I saw this as a child and was terrified to go in my swimming pool because I thought there was an invisible shark in my pool. So, like, I was one of those people. But
there you go. I love that.
Yeah, but okay, so before we get too much further into this, we have a clash of the titans today with our special guest because we are joining forces with two of your podcasts, Joe. So, everyone, she is the co-host of many podcasts, including The Losers Club, The Lady Killers, The Girls and the Boys, and Murder Made Fiction, the latter of which is also co-hosted by Horror Queer's very own Joe Lipsett. You may also remember her from our previous episodes on The Final Girls, Possession, and Apt Pupil. Please welcome back Jenn Adams.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I know. I debated making that my thing.
I know. Yeah. It's like it. You almost have to. You know, it feels like you're doing something wrong if you're not singing the song.
The score is such a big deal.
Yes, and rightly so. I love the score, even when it turns into like a John T.C. tune.
I don't love it then.
Okay, so no, because again, like when I saw this as a kid, and again, I've told this story multiple times, but like I saw Jaws 2 first, like that, right? It was was on TV. My uncle showed it to me. So then I was like, okay, I went to go visit some cousins and I was like, we got to watch the first Jaws. We got to rent the first Jaws because I don't know what happens in it. And this was the movie like that taught me how how score cued you into what was going to happen into a film. So I knew as a kid, when that Jaunty Sea tune is playing, no one's going to get attacked by this shark.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember when I was teaching music, I would play this for my students, and they all know it too. Even like generations later, they still recognize it as the shark song.
Amazing.
I mean, not the Baby Shark song, but the original shark song.
But I think that's the thing. I think we say whenever we cover a juggernaut like Jaws on this podcast, I'm always kind of like, well, I mean, even if you've never seen this movie, like you've heard of this movie.
Exactly.
You were aware of Jaws, because this wasn't just like a smash blockbuster that introduced the concept of blockbuster, but this was like a cultural, pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But Jen, do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
Yes, but I will say I actually saw Jaws 3 first.
Oh.
And I was obsessed with that movie. It still holds a special place in my heart, even though I can objectively look at it and know that it's kind of garbage.
Nostalgia's a bitch.
It really is, but I still love it. I love a coked out Dennis Quaid just running all over SeaWorld, you know?
He's very hot in that movie.
He is super hot in that movie. Yeah, that is a huge part of the draw. But I think I rented this on, like, I was looking for the scariest movie to scare my friends on Halloween. And this is not a Halloween movie at all. So I think we put it on. And funnily, I also did that with Psycho, which is a little more of a Halloween movie, but maybe not like
bad
for middle school, you know?
Yeah, not quite scary or jumpy enough.
Exactly. But I remember I heard about this movie. I heard it was like the scariest movie ever. It'll change the way you look at the ocean. Like, you'll never want to swim again. And I think by the time I did actually watch it, because we tried to put it on that Halloween night and we were pretty quickly like, I don't think this is doing it. You know, I mean, we're going to watch it another time. But I think by the time I actually watched it, I was pretty young, because I feel like they would like play on USA quite a bit when I was a kid.
Yeah, this is on TV all the time.
Right. But I feel like because I had seen Jaws 3, I could really appreciate it. So it's one of the rare movies that is like a juggernaut that I watched at a young age that I remember thinking, okay, this is something important. This is a good movie.
This is demonstrably better than Jaws 3.
Well, yes. Now, that is a low bar, you know.
I mean,
yes.
I remember liking Jaws 3 as a kid, because I didn't really distinguish between quality when I was a child. Like, I was very much like, all movies are good. Like, why bad movies? What is that? That doesn't exist.
I love that innocence. Let's bring some of that back. Well, I say as I'm the cynical cunt on this podcast.
But honestly, like, every Jaws movie, even Jaws: The Revenge, has a moment where when I watched it as a kid, I was like, this is fucking terrifying. And, you know, for 2, it's Marge's death. I always, like, really upset me in 2 when she saved Sean. But for 3, it was Fitzroy's death, because we get the inside the POV of the shark's mouth as it's biting him. And that always really scared me. So admittedly, I had to go back and watch Jaws 3 like when the Blu-ray came out like 5-ish years ago. And I was kind of aghast at how boring Jaws and SeaWorld is. But it has moments. It
does have moments. Yeah. And I think it's a great background watch, you know, and it kind of has that 3D charm too, you know, where it looks like trash, but, you know. Also, it's got Jo Beth Williams. Wait, no, it's not Jo Beth Williams.
Oh, Betsy Ross?
No, Betsy Ross, I think, made the American flag. Hold on.
Oh, right.
That has got to be a blooper too.
No, I'm just going to keep it in. It is Bess Armstrong.
Bess Armstrong.
I was like,
yes.
I knew it's a Bess or a Betty.
Bess, it's something like that. Yeah, but she's also in My So-Called Life, so I love her too. And I just always like the image of them at the end with the dolphins like jumping because the dolphins survive. It's a nice little triumphant moment.
Oh, wait, 3 has a really good jump scare though too, with the dead body where they're looking at the porthole of like the underwater sea and like the half-eaten corpse just like floats up.
Yes.
Boy, that's this franchise, for being a bunch of PG-rated films, except for The Revenge, which is PG-13.
Good jump scares.
But they also have like, they get away with a lot of like corpse stuff that I think is really scary for children.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and the thought of like being trapped in these underwater tunnels and then like imploding also, I think is just so terrifying.
Yeah, it's just, honestly, if you're going to remake a Jaws movie, just remake Jaws 3D and just don't make it 3D and don't call it Jaws and just say it's fucking Shark and SeaWorld. There you go.
Shark World, you know?
Yeah,
it writes itself.
I mean, isn't that like Deep Blue Sea 3?
Well, yeah, okay, but those are smart sharks. Okay.
No. The closest approximation we can get to Jaws 3D is Piranha 3 Double D, in which the piranha attack the water park. And that is, as someone who loves that first Piranha, that movie is a hot piece of garbage. It is so bad.
Is that the one where they cut Jerry O'Connell's dick off in the water?
No, that's the first one.
That's the first one.
Okay, I do like that one,
The second one is when the piranha swims up Cerie from 30 Rock's vagina, and then she still, like, survives, but it bites off a guy's dick while he's fucking her.
Man,
oh my God,
Cerie ends up in some shitty movies.
She has some really, really bad stuff. But but I guess, Joe, so you said you may have seen this after you've seen a bunch of imitators, because this movie was imitated a lot.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you first saw this?
To be honest, I can't. It's one of those movies that feels like I've always known it. I think in part because of what you described, right? It changes everything, and it's so well known even if you haven't seen it. So it's the Alien 3 line. This movie has been in my life so long, I don't even know what it's like to have lived without it. But I feel like I just need to clarify, because I'm really worried people are going to think that I hate this movie, and I don't. It's just I don't have the same love and adulation for it. Like, I think it's a very solid film. I enjoyed rewatching it this week, but like, I'm not going to rewatch this every July 4th.
I will say, I really do think at some point in your life you should watch either the 2-hour making of documentary from the early 2000s that's on every Blu-ray release of this film, or like, you know, that the shark is still working documentary, because even though I had seen them before, but like I'm sure I watched them like when I was a teenager getting the DVD for this, so I hadn't seen them since. But just like, you know, we all know about the production history, which I will go into, about how troubled it was, but it really did make me appreciate the film on another level, just for what they were able to accomplish with what they were up against.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's 50 years later, and this shark looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, this obviously looks like a fake shark. This does not look like a real shark. But, like, the movie it pulls me in so much that I kind of don't care.
I feel like there's only one scene where the shark is less convincing than usual. Like, whenever it's in the water, I think it's perfectly fine. It's when it, like, jumps up onto the boat and you're like, oh, I can see it moving a little robotically. But at that point, if you're not invested in this film and if you don't care, then you should have turned it off long before.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of Steven Spielberg's favorite stories, where, you know, Peter Benchley told him, like, the way you blow up the shark, this doesn't make any scientific sense. Like, a shark cannot bite into a thing, blow up. And Steven Spielberg's like, I've had the audience for 2 hours, and if they've been with me this far, they'll be with me for another 30 seconds.
Absolutely. And also, how else are you going to end this fucking movie? You need an explosion.
Well,
exactly.
You could end it like the book does, where the shark just dies.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I remember the first time, because I mean, you know, basically, like, when I was in middle school and early high school, and I wasn't allowed to watch R-rated movies, and of course, I had seen Jaws plenty of times, but like the way I got around that was I would go anything that was rated R, that was a horror film that was based on a book. I would always go and read the book, because my mom was like, well, books can't be bad.
Oh, Mama Trace. I love her.
Little did she know. But I remember like finishing Jaws, and I had to read the last 3 pages like 10 times, because I was like, what happened?
Right.
Like,
where's the explosion? Yeah.
It's not even that. I just couldn't tell how it died.
It expired.
It just kind of sinks. Eventually it gets tired, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's supposed to have died from its wound, because the book makes a big point saying, too, that sharks have to constantly be moving. And if they stop moving, they drown. And so the way Benchley described it, which I don't think he described it very well, but I always assumed it was like, oh, the shark got stuck and was forced to stop moving and then just sank. But Wikipedia tells me that it died from its wounds that it had sustained in the course of the climax.
Right.
No,
I mean, admittedly, they do beat the shit out of it.
They do. There's like a bunch of barrels.
There are a bunch of barrels. There's a lot of barrels, but
so many barrels.
Okay, well, let's go into this, because I'm not gonna lie. Again, I say this every time I do a Juggernaut, but I was like, what new information is out there about this film? And I feel like if you're a fan of Jaws, you know pretty much everything about this movie. But they just released a 4K for the 50th anniversary with a new documentary. It's a 90-minute documentary, in addition to the 2-hour making of, in addition to the 1 and 40-minute The Shark is Still Working documentary. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm pulling most of my production from this. And then, of course, I made the mistake of watching all the other stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, there's not really a lot of new information about this movie. But we're going to go with it anyway, because
you put that time and effort in.
I fucking did. And we're going to talk about it. And you know what? Also, I say, well, everyone knows about this, but
I don't think people do.
Yeah. I agree. And you know what? Gen Z out there maybe watching Jaws for the first time.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
So this documentary, though, is significant, which they note for having Steven Spielberg's direct involvement, in the year 2025. But it features many talking heads, including, and not even limited to, Cameron Crowe, Guillermo del Toro, J.J. Abrams, Robert Zemeckis, Jordan Peele, Greg Nicotero, Steven Soderbergh, and a lot of Emily Blunt.
Oh.
Huh.
I know.
Okay.
I was like, why Emily Blunt? Like, has she made a movie
She
with
a
Spielberg?
super fan?
She's currently filming a movie with Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
Okay.
So this
Okay.
feels like...
That's going to age well.
I mean, she has really good sound bites and she really appreciates the film, but I was like,
Yeah.
why is Emily Blunt all over this thing?
I mean, I like Emily Blunt.
Sure.
But I don't think about her when I think about Jaws,
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, oh, sometimes I think about swimming and then I just eat a cube of cheese because I'm afraid to go in the water.
In the water.
I do love this, though. The interviewer asked Steven Spielberg at the top of this documentary if he's going to tell him anything that he's never said about Jaws before. And Spielberg's response is just like, I don't know. Let's find out.
That's fun.
I like it. Cheeky.
So, yeah, all you people that have dissected all these bonus features throughout the years, you'll be able to tell me. Well, actually, I know the answer to that question. There's one. But it's fine.
Wow.
Okay, so the idea for Jaws came to author Peter Benchley from his own history. He grew up on the island of Nantucket and would go fishing for swordfish, but would often inadvertently catch sharks instead. So they were frequently on his mind, but I mean, again, at this time, he had no real experience with sharks underwater, and no one really knew much about sharks because no one had gone into the water to do this stuff. So two things really got him to start writing Jaws. One, in 1964, news broke that an American fisherman by the name of Frank Mundus harpooned and caught a huge 4,500-pound, 18-foot-long shark, great white shark, off the coast of Long Island.
Jeez, that's really big.
I know.
No, it's smaller than other sharks we might discuss.
That's true.
Well, but he thought, what would it be like, though, if one of these sharks decided to stay in one place? Because they're territorial, but they keep moving,
Right.
As we learn in the book Jaws, they have to keep
They
moving.
will famously die if they don't.
Yes.
But then the other thing was the release of the 1971 documentary Blue Water, White Death that featured famed Australian conservationists and divers Ron and Valerie Taylor. Up until that point, nobody in the world had ever captured footage like this before, and it captivated him.
Have y'all seen that movie?
No,
Yeah.
and I looked up to see if it was streaming somewhere when I saw this, and I was like, it's not streaming anywhere. But it just, I mean, here's the thing though. I think that anything you see on Shark Week is now going to eclipse what you got in that documentary.
Sure.
Yeah.
But as a piece of film history, I really want to see it.
It's good. It's interesting. I wrote about it for Bloody a couple of years ago, I think, around Shark Week time, because I am a bit obsessed with sharks. It's interesting. There is, I think the disturbing part is there's a shark death in it. These are real sharks. They're actually swimming with them. But Harry Chapin's brother provides the musical score. He just went with them on this boat where they were touring around just looking for sharks. So it's cool. It feels like a timestamp of the 70s. And I think it is very afraid of sharks also. So I think we'll probably talk about what this movie did for the shark community, and that movie I think kind of fits into that
Right.
also. So, but I mean, I would recommend checking it out. It's interesting.
Well, so Jen, I hear, though, because we are doing a joint show of horror, queers, and murder made fiction, that you may have a little bit more information for us, though,
I
on
sure
the
do.
inspiration for this. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to give you a mini primer on Jaws, or the story of one of the inspirations for Jaws. And if you like this, you can check out more mini primers, full primers, more shark shit on the Murder Made Fiction podcast that I co-host with Joe, where we talk about fictionalized adaptations of true crime stories.
Yeah, and we're actually covering sharks all this month, so
Yes,
that
we
is
are.
why it's part of the crossover.
Now, you might be confused because can sharks commit crimes? Is it a crime if you're a shark just hungry?
They can commit murders, I
They
think.
do, yes. And we also cover disaster kind of stuff also. So
Yeah, it's not all Ted Bundy all the time.
no, it's not. A lot of times it's fictionalized stories of real things that happen.
Wait. I'm sorry. Sharks can commit murder. Murder being the unlawful killing of another human without justification or valid excuse committed with the necessary intention as defined by the law in a specific jurisdiction.
Exactly. Trace, have you never seen a shark with a knife before?
I guess
Exactly.
the
They
laws
have
of
them in their mouths.
It's not even violating the laws of nature.
Also, did you just have that definition of murder?
No,
to
he
pull out?
fully got it while we were talking
Yeah,
because he wanted to be a dick.
I was literally like, I don't think that's factually accurate, but it's fine.
Absolutely not. But you know what? Most of the rest of the facts we talk about are true.
That's right. These facts are going to be true. So let me tell you about the Jersey Maneater. Okay, this happened on July 1st through 12th in 1916. We have 5 victims. 4 of them were killed, and all of them were under the age of 27. Okay, sources for this, we are using Michael Capuzzo's article, The True Story of Jaws for BBC. He also wrote Close to Shore, which was published in 2001. And I found he wrote like a middle school geared version of this story that maybe has a little less gruesomeness in it. That's also called Close to Shore with a different colon subtitle, I think. And then we're also using a little bit of Wikipedia to base our information. Okay, so the first victim was 23-year-old University of Pennsylvania graduate Charles Van Zandt, who was attacked and killed in Beach Haven, New Jersey on July 1st, 1916. People on the beach thought his screams were a joke, but when he was pulled ashore by a lifeguard and bystander, his thigh was stripped of flesh.
Yum.
Yeah, and then he bled to death. The press did not want to attribute this death to a shark, and the Philadelphia Public Ledger even tried to claim the shark was going after Van Zandt's dog, which feels like dog slander to me. So
The dog had it coming.
Oh, I know. You know, I'm a cat person, so I guess that dog.
Wow.
I
was
think the
being
dog
sarcastic.
survived. Hey, listeners, I guess I'll hear from you on that. Okay, so they did not want to claim this was a shark attack, but that changed with the second attack, which occurred on July 6th, 45 miles or 72 kilometers north of Beach Haven. And this was 27-year-old Swiss hotel employee Charles Bruder, and he was bitten in the abdomen, and his legs were severed while swimming 130 yards, which is 120 meters from shore, which that feels a little too far out for me to swim, but I have a fear of open water. So,
And why is that, Jen?
because of sharks and alligators. That's why, because I've been obsessed with this shit for a long time. By the time lifeguards pulled him in, Bruder had bled to death. Several papers ran with this story as front page news, and it ended up costing New Jersey beaches an estimated $250,000 in tourism dollars, which in 2024 would be $7.2 million.
Yeah, that's my favorite stat because people love to come at Mayor Vaughn in Jaws. It's like, oh my God, he's the embodiment of all the terrible politicians that we have nowadays because he puts profit over people. And I'm not going to disregard that. Like, I'm not going to deny it. But when you think of the losses that these beaches were potentially facing or these towns that depended on tourism, it is a really substantial figure. Again, I'm not suggesting we put the money before the people, but like, this is what's at stake.
See, and I think Vaughn's true crime is the anchor jacket. I think.
Oh, his fashion is terrible.
Yes, it's kind of lovably terrible at this point, you know. But yeah, that figure was really surprising to me because that is quite a bit of money. And I don't know if I would say it would be a life or death figure, but it would significantly change your way of life probably for many, many years if you missed that money. So 6 days later, another series of attacks occurred on July 12th near the town of Keyport. Sea Captain Thomas Cottress saw an 8-foot or 2.4 meter shark, but no one believed him. At 2 p.m., a group of local boys were playing at Wyckoff Dock on the Madeline Creek, which I love Wyckoff Dock. That sounds funny. When they saw what they described as, quote, a weather-beaten board or a weathered log. At this point, 11-year-old Lester Stillwell was sucked under the water.
Oh.
Yeah. Several townsmen tried to help, including Watson Stanley Fisher, who was 24. He assisted in the search for Stillwell. When they found Stillwell's body, Fisher was attacked on the right thigh. Jesus. I know. And he would later bleed to death at the hospital that afternoon.
Yeah, it's that one I find very disturbing because it's like, oh, you're trying to help somebody else and then you become a new victim.
The next victim, exactly. And Stillwell also died. His body was lost in this confrontation, though it was later recovered about 150 feet or 46 meters upstream a couple of days later.
Right.
30 minutes later, so this fish was hungry, Joseph Dunn, who was 14, had his leg stripped of flesh. And I gotta say, the constant stripping of flesh is quite disturbing to me.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know why that feels worse than just biting his leg off.
I was gonna say, like, because I think you just say, oh, he like, gets bitten in half. There you go. But it's
Right.
like, no. But when you see pictures of shark attack victims, even the ones that you see
they're
in
horrifying.
Jaws, yeah, it's just like, I mean, just rough flesh that's just like torn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah,
just hanging
I'm
off.
imagining eating like a chicken wing or a
Yeah.
hot wing, you
Oh,
know?
God.
Ugh. So he had the left leg stripped of flesh, but he was rescued from the shark by his brother and a friend and was rushed to the hospital, and he ended up surviving.
Okay.
So after these 3 attacks, Mattawan Mayor R.S.B. Henderson printed posters offering a $100 reward, which in 2024 would be $2,900.
Sounds familiar.
It does. To anyone who killed the shark in the creek. It went unclaimed, though. Residents did line the creek with nets and detonated dynamite, which I also think is funny.
Oh my
That's
God.
also like really dangerous for the other animals in the
Yeah.
to the ecosystem that you're harming there.
Exactly. And the people around you, too.
Yeah, I think people were a little crazed at this point.
I think so, too. And I mean, I think we're going to talk about this scene in the movie, but I think it is a pretty apt depiction of what I imagine this was like, you know?
Yeah, like a bunch of people get some beers, they go out on the water, they set off some explosives.
Exactly. I mean, that kind of sounds like 4th of July down in the South. you know?
Well, yes.
For better or worse. On July 14th, Harlem taxidermist and Barnum and Bailey lion tamer Michael Schleiser beat a great white shark to death with his boat oar when it nearly capsized the boat in Raritan Cove, which is right near the entrance to the Mattawan Creek. So partially digested remains were found in the shark's stomach and the attack stopped. So we assume that we killed the Jersey man-eater.
So you keep saying like it's a singular shark. Like I guess I always thought that because I've heard these referred to as the Jersey Shore shark attacks. And I guess I always assumed that they were like it was multiple sharks because it's impossible to tell, right?
It is. And I think that's the thing. We will never know. There's no way to prove it. I think the reason or the theory that it would be one shark is just that it is rare
Right.
for a shark to swim up into a creek. And I think a couple of these were the same shark. Like the one that was 30 minutes later, I imagine probably was
the same one.
shark.
Yeah.
But the one that was 6 days earlier or like on July 1st, like from July 1st to July 14th, it could be different sharks. There's just, there's no way to know, you know? So there is debate about whether it was truly a great white shark also. They typically stay in salt water, or it could have been a bull shark.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say because when I was in elementary school, like they have book fairs in elementary schools, and there was a book
Absolutely,
that was,
like the best week of the year.
It was so fun. But I remember they had this book. It was a collection of like shark attack short stories, all fiction. Like, they were all fictional. But like, hey, I don't know why this is an elementary school like book fair because the shark attack, because every story ended with a shark attack, and it was kind of gory. But the one I always remember, there's two I remember. One is like, okay, someone's in the middle of the water, they're in scuba gear, like the shark comes. It's like a Meg situation where like the shark comes up below them and just like swallows them. But the other one was always this bully kid who was bullying another kid, and they were in like this river, and it was like 2 feet deep of water, and this bully was killed by a bull shark. And because again, it's like the thing where it's like, bull sharks are so aggressive, they can swim in fresh water, and so if there is a shark attack, it's typically going to be either a great white or a tiger shark, but more commonly a bull shark because that's where they make their way up into fresh water.
Absolutely. Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, my son is really into those I Survived books, and I think he did read one from the book fair about this true crime story also.
Okay.
Which is like, it's kind of upsetting details, for kids, but I guess if you write it in a way that works for elementary, you're fine,
No, ban them. Ban all the books.
Yeah, ban the books.
Well, look, they got to learn that sharks will eat people at some point in their life, so it might as well be through this story.
Turn on the TV and show them Jaws. It's on right now, wherever you are.
That's true, yeah. So some also believe the different types of injuries indicate that there was more than one shark. So, But we're also talking about 1916, too. So their forensic evidence, we probably don't have the best documentation. We will never know, but I think you're probably right. I think it was more than one shark.
Yeah.
So The attacks prompted scientists at the time to reevaluate their hypothesis that sharks are timid and powerless. Could you imagine a time where we thought sharks were timid and powerless?
I think it's just like they didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
So they were just like, oh yeah, we never see sharks, so they must be scared of humans.
I also just think the hubris, where it's like, I'm the same as you, Jim, where I don't have that fear. It's the fear of like the bottomless pit of the ocean. But like, when you're in the ocean, the open sea, and you look down and you can't see anything.
Oh, it's
like,
terrifying.
It is a terrifying concept. And for man to think, oh, well, if a shark attacks a human in the ocean, it's their fault.
Absolutely.
We're in their territory, baby.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, sharks are awesome. They're my favorite animals, and I don't fuck with them because they can eat me. But we also didn't realize that the shark bite was as strong as it is. At this time, they didn't think it could break human bone, but it absolutely can. And there are like 3 different rows of shark teeth. Like those, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
In the coolest way.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the story of the Jersey Maneater.
Oh, man. Well, I have a fun little anecdote for y'all, too, actually. So, for my honeymoon, my husband and I went to Bora Bora. And
wait, did you go in the shark cave? The shark cage.
Oh, no, there was no cage. So basically, like, one of the options was, it was a swimming with sharks expedition. And so, like, we instead of doing a traditional registry, we did a honey fund, and like you could like itemize the gifts out. So he was like, oh, like $50 towards dinner, and I had like, oh, $500 towards swimming with sharks. And
okay,
so we go out on the boat, and they take us to a sandbar first, and it's basically like it's waist deep water, but it's all like these. I don't remember what sharks they were. I think they were just kind of sand sharks. They were smaller, probably 3 feet long, maybe 4 feet long, and it was fine. And so they're like, okay, we're going to one more stop, and there's going to be lemon sharks. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of a lemon shark. That's interesting.
They're sweet.
We go, and it's like 50 feet deep water, but it's Bora Bora, so it's crystal clear. So you can see all the way to the sea.
All the way down.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the sharks, they said, just a heads up, the sharks are a little bit bigger. And I was like, okay. And I get out there, and I was like, oh, these are big sharks. And I remember, like, because they clearly brought people out there frequently. And so the sharks were very comfortable, like, coming close to humans. And I just remember turning, like, we had a life jacket, and I had a snorkel gear, but we weren't scuba diving. And I would frequently try to dive down as deep as I could, just like see if like sharks would come near me. I just remember, I remember going down, and I just turned, and there was a shark like facing me, like 3 feet away. And he wasn't gonna bite me, and he like quickly turned as soon as I kind of turned. But I was like, I have never like. It was the most exhilarating and terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. I would happily do it again, but like. It was wild. Like I've never been just swimming, and you can look up a lemon shark. I want to see how big they are, but like Jesus Christ.
Ooh, jeez. I'm imagining though, like the shark from like Finding Nemo too, where it's just got this big grin, or from like The Little Mermaid too. And then y'all like have an awkward moment of eye contact, and then you both turn away, and they're like, no.
A little bit, yeah. But it's just the thing where it's like, I guess because the water was just so deep that it was just like, and there were so many of the sharks,
Oh, so you were under the water.
Oh yeah, like I dove like probably 8 feet down, like in 50 feet deep water, just to see if like I could get another shark to come close to me. And it did.
Well, I'm glad you survived.
Yeah.
I think none of that is something I would ever do because I'm terrified just hearing about it. But you know,
I'm looking this up. They can grow to 3.4 meters or 11 feet in length, and they are listed as vulnerable. So, because of course, one of the other things that happens as a result of things like Jaws, both the book and the movie, as well as all these other texts, is that people are so scared of sharks that we start to just kill them arbitrarily.
Well, and that 50th anniversary documentary does go into more of like how, like again, in the years following Jaws, and really all the way through to 2000, a lot of sharks were becoming endangered because people were killing them. It's a big issue with people making shark fin soup because they'll just cut the fins off of sharks and throw the bodies back in the ocean. But they will weight the bodies down so they'll just die on the ocean floor. Yeah, it's really inhumane. But the general conclusion at the end was that now, like in modern times, we are actually seeing a shift where people are much more mindful about it. Even like, if a shark washes up on shore, you'll see people like helping it to get back into the water rather than killing it.
Nice.
I wonder if that has to do with Shark Week,
Maybe.
Probably.
There has been a shift in that programming too. I mean, there's always like the shark attack and like these are the deadliest sharks, but there's also a lot more programming now, I think, about how cool sharks are. And that they don't really want to eat people.
Yeah. Yeah. But, okay, so back to Benchley's book. So finding the title was the hardest part. They had pages and pages and pages of potential names, including pretentious ones like Leviathan Rising and The Terror of the Deep.
No.
Hours before the book was supposed to go to press, the publisher called Benchley and was like, we need a title. And basically the only thing that was really sticking out to all of them was Jaws. And the publisher was like, cool, what does it mean? And Benchley's reply was, I don't know, but it's short.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the other option that sticks out to me would have been something like Finn, but I guess even that could be maybe misconstrued. Like, Jaws is scary because you're thinking about, oh, a jaw closes, and is it closing on me?
Yeah.
I think Jaws is perfect because it does feel menacing. It's short. I love a title that will fit like horizontally across a book spine, you know? And I think it's simple and it tells you exactly what you're about to see. I can't imagine living in a world where this was titled anything but Jaws too. So it could just be that I'm just married to it, you know?
Like, yeah, what if it was just called Great White or Shark Attack or Killer Shark? Like, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
I don't think
Not
so
the same
either.
punch. No.
Yeah.
So the pre-production of the film actually starts before the book even comes out, of course. But
One of these.
yes, the book was released in February of 1974 and got mixed reviews. I will say, this book, like, you know, we cut out the mafia storyline because that's the whole motive for the mayor's greed, is that he owes the mafia a lot of money in the book. And then, of course, the affair between Mrs. Brody and Hooper is cut out, and we don't kill Matt in the film like we do kill him in the book.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we missed the part where Brody's wife goes into the bathroom and like powders her boobs too.
I mean, I'm like in middle school and I have a distinct memory of the Ellen Brody portion where she's thinking about she's in a car with Hooper and she's thinking about having sex with him, and she talks about how her vagina was growing more and more moist, and I was I'm like 12 years old reading this, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I was
Can't wait to see this on screen.
Right. This is what women do, I guess. I don't know.
But the hardback remained on the bestseller list for 44 weeks, and the subsequent paperback edition, released in 1975, and I think this is like a few months before the film came out, would go on to sell millions of copies.
Jeez.
I love this, though. One of Benchley's favorite reviews of his film is by none other than Fidel Castro.
Oh, my God.
Fidel Castro was doing a television interview, and someone asked what he was reading, and he said, I'm reading this book, Jaws. And they were like, oh, you're reading, like, American consumerism shit? And he was like, well, no, actually, Jaws is a marvelous metaphor for the corruption of capitalism.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Also, fun fact, the first hardback book cover of the book was a shot of Amity Island, like in the jaws of the shark. They scrapped that one for the next printing, which was a version of the shark swimming under the woman, the kind of one we would get in the film, but it was a black image and the shark looked like kind of a dick. You can look this up. It doesn't look very threatening. And so,
does it look sexual?
Well, they said it looked like a penis with teeth. But that's when Roger Castell came in with the paperback art, which was so good that it's what Universal used for the movie poster. So they didn't even like change it. They just said, cool, we're taking the paperback art and that's our movie poster.
I think I have it on a t-shirt.
Oh my God, you and everyone else.
Yeah, I know. I am original.
But also, I hope that they paid him a second time for that.
Yeah.
Oh, no. The paperback artist was new, and apparently he gave it to them. Like, that he didn't ask for money. And I will say, that the producers on the film, David Brown and Richard Zanuck, like, they seem like the nicest man. And Brown even says, like, honestly, I feel like he should have sold it to us, but he didn't. So I always credit him whenever I can.
Jesus, that's unfortunate.
I mean, you can give him some money if you want to.
That would be the obvious thing to do.
Yeah. Now, okay, so how this book, though, got into the hands of Zanuck and Brown. So Helen Gurley Brown, the editor of Cosmopolitan magazine at the time, gave the book to her husband, David Brown. So he and Zanuck read it and bought the rights for $150,000. And they both said that if they had read the book a second time, they never would have agreed to do it, because they would have realized this is impossible to do.
Yeah, like Half on the Water.
Well, here's...
We'll get there.
Spielberg was in post-production on his first theatrical release, the 1974 Goldie Hawn starring dramedy The Sugarland Express. And was already thinking about what he wanted to do next. So he knew he wanted to do a UFO movie, which would eventually become Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I've never seen it, honestly.
It's fine. Corey really likes it. I
That's
don't.
the thing. I'm just kind of like, I really don't care about aliens unless they're killing people. But
Also, the mashed potato part is gross too.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Like, it's nasty. Just trust me.
I've never had it. I'm sure I've just never had an interest of like seeking it out, and maybe
Yeah.
one day I will.
Yeah.
But one day he was in the office of Universal of Zanuck and Brown when the galleys caught his eye. Joe, the galleys are coming back from our Deliverance conversation.
Ah, yes. That's where they prepare the food, right? That's what I said in that episode.
Exactly, yeah. But the top sheet of the galleys just said Jaws by Peter Benchley, and he was like, "Oh, what is this about? Is it about a dentist? Like, what's going on?"
You know what? The spinoff, Dr. Jaws.
I mean, yeah. Honestly, the dentist movies of Corbin Burnson probably would have been called Jaws if Jaws didn't exist.
Sure.
But he asked to read it, and he was enthralled. In his mind, Jaws was, in a way, a sequel to his television film Duel, in that Duel was this murderous leviathan on the highway trying to kill a traveling salesman in a little car, whereas Jaws is a story of this leviathan of the sea that is rending this seaside resort into bankruptcy.
And Leviathan is a movie about Ernie Hudson battling that lady with the weird eyes.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
I always get Leviathan and Deep Star 6 mixed up. I know they're both bad, but I like them both.
Because they're essentially the same movie. And from like the same year or two also.
Yeah, except Leviathan is actually good, and Deep Star 6 just has good effects, but not great.
One of them is a monster, the other one is like a virus that turns people into monsters.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. No, thanks.
So he went into Brown and Zanuck's office and goes, "Oh, like, do you have a director yet? Because I would love to direct this." But they told him a director was already attached to the film. And for the longest time, they actually wouldn't reveal this guy's name because they had to fire this guy because during their meetings, he kept calling the shark a whale, and they got really annoyed with him.
That is a huge difference.
Yes. Whales are not menacing.
This man is Dick Richards, who is mostly known for directing the 1982 slasher film Death Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so after they fired him, they called Spielberg and told him the gig was available and that he could direct it if he wanted to.
Well, look how that turned out.
And I think the thing with Jaws that always surprises me, though, is like creature features are never considered like high art, high quality, like or even like blockbuster cinema, obviously until this film. But I guess I'm just so surprised that they wanted to put so many eggs in this basket of what was essentially quote unquote just a killer shark movie.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, it's important to note that Spielberg had zero idea how this could be done.
I want to do it. I don't know how yet.
Hey, that's faking it till you make it, you know?
I think that's just the white American man story, is it not, Jen?
It sure is, yeah.
Yeah.
But he did know that he wanted it to feel authentic, comparing it to how the studio, when he was making Duel, the studio wanted him to film it on a soundstage using rear projection in the windows, and he refused, saying, "I'm going to shoot it on the open road because I don't want it to look fake."
Right.
Okay.
So to achieve that verisimilitude, he knew he needed to film Jaws on location out in the ocean, as making it either on the backlot or in a tank would have made it a very different movie.
Yes. Absolutely.
But also, good fucking luck.
Yes. So when he started planning in 1974, he was really focused on how to adapt the novel. So Benchley took a few different stabs at a script. And eventually, after a couple drafts, he handed it over to Spielberg and goes, "Here, do what you want with it. Like, obviously,
I'm
your
done.
movie." Yeah.
I got paid. I'm good.
And then Spielberg, as like an exercise, he basically wrote his own script from scratch. And then they started bringing in other writers as they were adapting Benchley's screenplay, kind of merging it with Spielberg's. And it ended with Howard Sackler, who is the director of The Great White Hope, which Spielberg notes is kind of funny because he was like, "Oh, The Great White Hope, Great White Shark, sure, like bring this guy in, whatever."
It's Kismet.
But Sackler would basically create the final structure of all these attempts in February of 1974. And he's not credited, by the way, as one of the screenwriters of this film. So it's very much he took all the parts that Benchley wrote and constructed them into like a workable film.
Right.
By this point, the film became much more a story of Chief Brody as a reluctant hero who is tested by the elements or by nature itself. Whereas in the book, he's constantly worried that his wife is cheating on him.
And I mean, rightly so, because she is.
She is, for
Right.
sure. And it causes tension between him and Hooper, which, again, I don't think the film needs anyway, because
There's already tension.
Well, exactly. But at least I think you need the friendship between Brody and Hooper to make a lot of that go down more smoothly.
Yeah,
Yes,
Hooper is a dick
friendship.
in the book.
Yeah, he's not a nice person.
Like, and it's not pleasant. He feels like they always talk about the Lacoste alligator on his shirt and like how expensive everything is, and I'm just like, I don't need this.
Yeah. But then, for a comedy punch-up, Spielberg wanted to bring in his friend Carl Gottlieb, who is the other credited screenwriter. So it's Benchley and Gottlieb, who are the two credited screenwriters on the screenplay.
Okay.
But Gottlieb's job was to find some lightness and humor between the three disparate men in the final act. And so the way he did this, the way Spielberg did this, though, he just sent Gottlieb a final version of the script and a note on the cover that said, "Dear Carl, eviscerate it," in all caps.
Dear Carl, make funny.
Fun fact, Gottlieb plays Meadows, the editor of the newspaper in the film.
Okay.
The Great White Shark, by the way, was not understood by the public at large when the film came out. And even in the film's wake, of course, it would become a big talking point of people and like a big focus point for a lot of people. But it became this kind of mythical beast because in reality, as a lot of these oceanographers say, great white sharks are the governors of the ocean, controlling the populations of everything beneath them.
The governors of the ocean. I love that. I'm picturing a shark with a monocle now.
Right. So again, if you kill all these sharks, then some population's going to get out of control.
Right.
Production designer Joe Alves, who would go on to direct Jaws 3D, put together a couple dozen illustrations of the shark's activity, basing them on what was described in the galley sheets, because at this point a script hadn't been written. He sketched to scale, meaning full-size drawings that he put on the walls of the offices. One of an 18-foot long shark, one of a 26-foot-long shark.
No, that's too big.
And another of a 32-foot-long shark.
Oh, that's much too big.
Yeah.
So we're in a Goldilocks situation here. So Spielberg did not think the 18-foot shark was very intimidating, and the 32-foot-long shark was not realistic. So because he thought that if we did the 32-foot-long shark, then it would have shifted the genre of the film into science fantasy, and he wanted to have it firmly planted in reality.
Yeah, he was like, the Meg can barely get away with it, and that's in the future.
I know, exactly. And they've got shark octopuses there, too.
Sharktopuses? Sharktopi.
Sharktopuses, yes.
Yeah. The 26-foot-long shark, though, was just right.
Just right.
Now, construction on the shark began on October 1st, 1973, 5 full months before the script was finished. And it was done on a lot in a shed in the San Fernando Valley, so off of the studio
I thought
lot.
they said they were going to do it on the water. Liars.
Well, I mean, they're building the shark on land.
Liars.
Now, they bring Bob Matty, the creator of the giant squid from the 1954 adaptation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, out of retirement. He was retired by this point.
Wow. That's a big ask.
And he headlines the construction.
He's like, I gotta get into the shark movie.
3 sharks were built. One to move from left to right, another to move from right to left, and then one on a big crane. Here's the thing, though. They thought they had a year and a half to make the sharks.
Oh, dear.
But the studio told them that they wanted to start shooting by November, December because the book was so popular and they wanted to capitalize on it before interest waned. And I think...
Oh, my God. We just talked about this last week with fucking Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Stop scheduling movies around a release date and just make the movie.
Well, and that's the thing. It's because the paperback came out, and that's when it really took
it really
off.
explodes.
And so they were like, we have to get this before the popularity dies down. And everyone was reading this book.
Sure.
Spielberg was able to extend their deadline to May of 1974 when production officially began. But this meant that the shark crew weren't given the 15 weeks they needed to properly test and troubleshoot the shark. The May start date also was earlier than expected because the studio was trying to get production underway before an impending strike, which I don't think ever happened. Maybe it did, but either way, this meant that no one was fully prepared. The shark was not fully prepared.
Right. Oh, poor Bruce.
Yeah.
Yes, Bruce, named after Spielberg's lawyer, by the way. Anyway, filming took place in Martha's Vineyard, a location chosen because they needed a bay with a 25-foot depth, like nothing deeper than 25 feet. And they also needed something with a low tide.
Right.
They had casting director Sherry Rhodes cast the majority of the film with actual islanders, which I did not know this. Only 8 actors came from Hollywood to shoot the film.
Wow.
And 4 of them, it's like, Peter Benchley is one of them. Carl Gottlieb is one of them. So it's like literally everyone, including the deputy, played by Jeffrey Kramer, they're all people that just lived on this island.
Oh,
amazing.
Wow.
Oh, that makes sense because when I was going through the plot, a bunch of these people, I was just like, why does it say uncredited on half of the cast?
Yeah.
It must be because this is probably their only acting credit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they didn't live where they were filming another movie, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this was all very intentional on Spielberg's part because he wanted to give the movie a more naturalistic, impromptu feel, with some actors like Craig Kingsbury, who plays Ben Gardner, making up nearly all of his dialogue. To which I said,
Wow.
Do we see Ben Gardner before he dies? And we do. He's on the boat during the big, boats going out and killing the shark scene.
Oh, none of these people are
okay.
going to make it out of the harbor alive moment?
He might be in there, but again, I don't ever know if someone names him by name when he's actually on camera.
Don't think so. I
don't
don't
think
think
so
I even
either.
know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's definitely in this. And he's ad-libbing his lines. But they thought they'd be done filming by the 4th of July.
Sure.
But they were on the ocean for nearly 5 months. Of course, we know the story of the shark, how it was really working on set. And the big reason for this is because they built the shark for freshwater instead of saltwater.
Oh, come on,
How-
guy.
How did that get missed in the communication?
I don't know. Or maybe it was that they didn't realize that saltwater was going to... Because there's something with electrolysis where it was essentially eating away at all the machinery. And so the crew was always working on the sharks day in and day out. And, during the opening scene of the film, Spielberg says, I always thought it'd be scary if the shark wasn't there. But then if you didn't see the shark. But then in that 50th anniversary documentary, he says, well, we didn't have the shark. So I had to not show the shark.
Yeah.
In the storyboards he did, you do see the shark.
I kind of love this, right? Like Tracy and I have long talked about how, especially when we're talking about independent films where you just don't have the budget, sometimes you have to get creative because you can't do all the things you would get to do if you had all the money in the world. And this feels like a big budget version of that problem, right? Where you're like, oh no, we've got this amazing shark. It just doesn't work. So we're going to have to do workarounds. And then it ends up coming out scarier.
Yeah. And being incredible and something that your movie is known for.
Exactly. It would influence so many films. Actually, not even the creature features. It's interesting. The creature features that aped off of this would always show the creatures. But
they learned the wrong lesson.
Yeah. And I think the score has a lot to do with that too. Like
That
if we
too.
were just seeing underwater footage, then I don't think it would be nearly as creepy.
Because this is 3 years before Halloween, but I always think about that anecdote of Halloween whenever John Carpenter screened it for the studios, and he was like, this isn't scary. Like, this is really boring. And then they added the score, and it was all of a sudden, it was so fucking scary.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the power of a good score.
And that's the thing is, like, the John Williams' Jaws score, like, it is the shark.
Yeah, it is. It's a stand-in.
Yeah,
It's an
until
audio
about,
stand-in.
2/3 through of the movie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was paying attention to this too. Like there are times when we're underwater and we don't hear the shark, like when the little boys are faking it out, and we don't hear the music there. So yeah,
That's how you know there's no one's going to get attacked yet.
Exactly.
There we go.
5-year-old Trace knew that shit. There was a point, though. Sorry, again, it wasn't just the shark, though. Like the filming at sea was an enormous problem. So, like, there was a point where like the orca nearly sank when some planks were pulled out of the hull. But I think with a mechanical shark, filming in general was a pain though because they'd get everything set up on the boats. They have like the orca and then like 3 boats surrounding it with a bunch of the crew. But because of tide and current, 50 seconds later, the current would move everything. And God forbid you would see another boat out on the horizon because it couldn't be in the frame. So then they'd have to wait what would basically be a full hour for the boat to exit the frame pray that another boat didn't take its place.
Oh my God.
Wow. And I guess
Hurry up and wait.
You can't shut down the sea, you know?
No. And you can't have someone like go out there and be like, hey, can you please move your boat faster? Because it's like it's just a little, because Spielberg's whole thing was, I don't want to see land anywhere in the frame. I don't want to see other boats. Like they have to be isolated. And Spielberg says that on a good day at sea, he would get maybe 5 shots.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted just hearing this.
Same. I know.
And that's the thing is I'm like, these things make me appreciate a lot more of how immersive the last act of this movie is. Because I will confess, when I checked my timestamp and I was like, they're on the water for almost half of this movie.
Yeah, it's 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, you know what though? Worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that attention to detail does really add to the immersive quality of it. Yeah.
These delays, by the way, were all over the news at the time. Newspapers, news broadcasts, conversations are being had about whether it was actually physically possible to finish the film. Spielberg was getting raked across the coals by newscasters saying, like, oh, like, Universal's giving this to this, like, 20-something-year-old, like, second-time director, like, and he doesn't know how to control the budget, blah, 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 blah.
He doesn't know how to control the water.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, Spielberg at this time thought, well, I'm never going to work again, which I think is maybe what pushed him through to making this. He's like, if I'm never going to work again, then I'm going to make this fucking movie.
Right.
This is it. This is my magnum opus.
Exactly, yeah.
And at one point, even Sidney Sheinberg, the head of Universal and husband of Lorraine Gary, who plays Mrs. Brody in this film, came to assess the damage. He told Spielberg, like, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to finish the film based on how you're wanting to do it at sea. What do you want to do? And Spielberg just said, nope, I'm going to finish it this way.
Okay, good to him.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I mean, he felt really responsible because everyone and the crew was like, when are we going to get to go home? Like, and it just, like, they didn't know. There was no end date in sight. And so, like, everyone, whatever the cabin fever at sea is, like, that's what they were having.
Trace, are you going to say if this affects the budget?
So Spielberg, in one line, it says he bumped the budget up by about $1.5 million, which I was like, that doesn't seem that
seems
bad.
low.
I mean, adjusted for inflation, that's a good chunk of money. But either way, it was more than that. It was more than what they intended, because I think the final budget for this film was $9 million, which again, I think the initial intended budget was $5 million. So we can say it really upped the budget by $4 million.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's not insignificant in 1975.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's almost double.
Yeah, exactly. When they finally finished filming, Spielberg had a panic attack when they wrapped filming at Martha's Vineyard because, again, he felt responsible for the crew, but he also had to keep filming for 2 more months, most of which was the underwater cage scenes, which were shot in a soundstage. But also, like the Ben Gardner head bit, he reshot that after test screenings were done in a pool in a backyard in L.A. Because he wanted to get the timing right for the jump scare.
Right.
Yeah, didn't he say something like it needs a pop in the middle or something?
So basically, when they had their first test screening in Dallas, Joe.
Ooh, we love a Texas press screening.
I don't know what it is about test screenings going off in Dallas. Like, I don't understand why Dallas is but we had a long conversation, Jen, in Disturbing Behavior, where they had a test screening in Dallas that really fucked up that movie. But then I've learned that apparently a lot of films just go to Dallas for test screenings, and I don't know why. But
it must be like the mixture of people that they can get to come out. It must be representative of the broader U.S. audience.
You know what? Send them to Nashville. Because I'll test screen some shit.
Yeah. But basically, so the first time I test screened, it was a great test screening. And whenever the iconic scene when Brody is chumming the water and like the shark pops out, that got wild, like people jumping out of their chairs. It was wild. Sure. And then he was like, why isn't the head coming out doing it? Like, there's something wrong with the timing. So he went and shot it on his own dime because the studio was like, the well is dry. You don't get any more money from us.
Move on.
So he went and paid $3,000 of his own money to get like the whole part of the shit recreated just for the shot. I mean, this is an insert shot.
Right.
And he tested it about 4 different times with crew members to say, what's it going to work? And he finally found the one that worked. And then again, it killed the audience. I mean, again, people jumping out of their chairs, but then it had the double effect, though, of weakening or dampening the effect of the chum scene, where it was like, oh, people weren't jumping as high because they didn't trust me as a director after the Ben head scene because it was such a good jump scare.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. But yeah, so they also got Ron and Valerie Taylor, the stars of the aforementioned documentary Blue Water, White Death, to give their blessing to the film because they knew that they were going to be, saying, hey, sharks kill people.
Right.
But they also wanted them to be involved to get real life shark footage for the film. So they went to the Great Barrier Reef off of Australia and got the footage that was intercut into the film. And I got to say, though, one of the things that they get, so it's the shot of the shark like tearing the cage apart when Matt has already gone out of the cage.
Right.
In their original plan was to have a dummy in the cage and the shark attack it, but they got a smaller cage and a small dummy, so it would like the shark would look bigger to scale because it's supposed to be a big ass shark, and it wasn't working. And they got basically a little person in scuba gear.
Oh.
And he was about to get in the cage when a great white shark swam over the cage and got stuck.
Oh.
And this is the footage they got of the shark destroying the cage. But here's the thing.
That's real footage.
Oh, that's real footage. Yes. Because originally, again, you're supposed to have someone in the cage. But when they got this footage, they were like, oh, this is great, but no one's in the cage. Which is why they had to change the scene to be, oh, Hooper swims out of the cage first before the shark destroys it.
Do you think that's why he survives in the movie?
I don't know if it's why he survives, but maybe. So yeah, and of course, the music. I mean, we all know and love the Jaws theme. He hired John Williams because he worked with him on Sugarland Express, and the rest is history. There you go.
Yeah.
Tris is like, and I'm done.
I have. There is a piece of score that I love that I'll talk about when we get to the plot. But
okay.
But yeah, so they have the test screening in Dallas. They have more test screenings. The world premiere takes place at the local theater in Martha's Vineyard on June 20th, 1975. Giving it to the Islanders, saying, hey,
I love that.
You all help us make this movie. We're going to premiere this film for you.
Yeah, me too.
Reviews were mixed, with many reviewers saying it follows the same old formula.
What?
I mean, it is a genre film, folks, so let's not be too surprised.
Well, okay, yes, that's right.
It wasn't until Jaws' third month of release, when the film just kept growing, that a lot of reviewers started, I'm not going to say redacting their reviews, but basically just saying, there is something here that we missed.
Third month in theaters, too, though. Doesn't that just tell you how different it was back then,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Two major cultural events happened in the summer and fall of 1975, too. So one was, yes, Jaws became part of the culture. And the other one was they had the first live telecast of Saturday Night Live. And Spielberg was in the audience when the land shark showed up.
Land shark.
And he thought it was hysterical. But this, and again, like land shark was a recurring character across that first season of Saturday Night Live. And so that basically cemented, like, Jaws, again, wasn't just a movie. It wasn't just a blockbuster. It was a pop culture phenomenon. It made the cover of Time magazine. It was, as well as Mad magazine. And even Spielberg's like, I was kind of more happy about Mad magazine than Time magazine.
Oh my God. If you were mocked by Mad magazine, you had fucking made it.
Now, I don't have the opening weekend numbers, but suffice to say that Jaws was a monstrous success, becoming the first film to A, be released in over 400 theaters, to which I say, 400 theaters and it made that much money?
Well, it played for months and months and months.
Yes, but here's the thing. It was originally supposed to be 600 theaters, and someone at the studio says, cut that in half, because I want people from Palm Springs to have to drive to LA to come see this movie.
Build the buzz.
So it went from 600 to 450 screens. It was also the first film to break $100 million at the box office.
Oh, man. In that time.
Well, so here, you want to talk inflation?
Yeah.
Jaws finishes its run with $260 million.
Oh, my God.
When adjusted for inflation, $1.5 billion.
Holy shit. Wow.
It's basically a James Cameron film before James Cameron was a thing.
And it's a thing, I never knew the term blockbuster came because people were wrapped around the blocks, therefore busting the blocks of the street. Yep. Another big factor for its success, though, was the marketing campaign, because this is also a time when TV was first starting to be used for promoting movies, for TV spots.
Right. Which seems so late, because we had TVs for like decades at this point.
Totally. I was like, hey, we could use this thing to promote our movie?
Well, I mean, it's funny that we say that, right? But we know that Alfred Hitchcock was kind of doing it back in the day. Like, Psycho becomes a major hit because Alfred Hitchcock does that, in addition to a bunch of gimmicky things. But, like, he was cross-promoting his movies using Alfred Hitchcock Presents on TV.
Right.
Makes sense, right? Hey, self-promotion. Love it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do it if you got it.
Jaws does go on to get nominated for 4 Academy Awards. One for Best Picture, one for Best Music, Best Sound, and Best Editing.
Okay. Does it win any of them?
It wins 3 of them.
Not Best Picture.
It loses Best Picture to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And Spielberg was pretty bummed that he didn't get a Best Director nomination. But also, like there's even footage of Michael Douglas being interviewed, being like, I cannot believe they didn't nominate Steven Spielberg. Like, and there's another one with a woman where she's like, I mean, I can't fathom getting a Best Picture nomination, but nominating the director who's essentially responsible for that film.
Yeah.
Which is a debate we continue to have to this day.
Seriously. And I mean, poor Stevie, he's never going to win an Oscar, too. This was his last chance.
No, I know, right? I was like, wait a minute.
He turns out okay.
I did have to look it up. He does win the Best Director Oscar for Schindler's List and for Saving Private Ryan.
That's right.
But he says, like, I can't be too mad, though, because of Jaws, I got Final Cut, and I've had it for the past 50 years.
There you go.
Plus all the money. and fame, you know. Yeah, I think he turned out okay, you know. But that is great, especially for like such a young director also.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the only information I think might be new in this documentary, and this is the conclusion to my production history. But
okay,
Spielberg kind of ends his interview saying this, and I quoted this directly. So, I had a real tough time when I finished the movie, and the success was fantastic, but it didn't stop the nightmares. It didn't stop me from waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat where the sheets would be soaking wet. We didn't have the words PTSD in those days, and I had consistent nightmares about directing Jaws for years afterwards.
Wow.
I was still in the movie, and the film was never ending. When they brought one of the boats all the way back from Martha's Vineyard and shipped the boat, the Orca, to the Universal backlot, I used to get in my electric cart without telling anybody, and I would sneak behind the trams. Nobody could see me, and I'd just sneak on board the boat, and I would sit in the cabin in that little weatherette booth, and I would just sit there and sometimes cry. I had nothing to cry about. This film was this phenomenon, and I'm sitting here shedding tears because I'm not able to divest myself from that experience. That boat helped me to begin to forget. The Orca was my therapeutic companion for several years after Jaws came out.
Wow.
I mean, that is kind of amazing, but also, Jesus, like men would rather sneak onto the back lot than get therapy.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like, he doesn't say the time period. I'm assuming this is like the late 70s, early.
Yeah. Well, if he's saying they didn't have the words PTSD at the time, or they weren't in like common vernacular, then I don't know if it would have occurred to him to go to therapy. But yeah, seriously, I'll have a relationship with the Orca, you know.
Okay, Joe. What happened in this movie? This 2-hour and 4-minute movie?
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, apparently we're in for the long run here. So before I get going, I'm going to credit 2 references. So throughout, I will be sprinkling a little bit from Matthew Belinki's piece, You're Gonna Need a Bigger Phallic Symbol, Jaws as a Journey from Impotence to Manhood for overthinkingit.com. And then I'm also going to credit Jen Corrigan, whose contribution, 3 Men on a Boat, will help our queer reading for this film, and that is one of the collected essays in It Came From the Closet, Queer Reflections on Horror, which is a collection that I strongly encourage any of our listeners to check out. It's edited by Joe Valise, and it's really, really good.
You know where your business would be without you. Imagine where it could go with more of you. Well, with Wix, you can create a website with more of your vision, your voice, your expertise. Wix gives you the freedom to truly own your brand and do it on your own with full customization and advanced AI tools that help turn your ideas into reality. Grow your business into your online brand. Because without you, your business is just business as usual. Go to Wix.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Okay, so we begin with something Jen has already mentioned, which is those underwater POV shots, as well as John Williams's iconic score.
I'm just going to say, though, like, before the movie even starts, I love the sounds of the ocean playing over the underwater ocean over the Universal logo. And
yeah.
Joe, I feel like you and I are disadvantaged because I did pull this one quote from John Williams, which I really appreciated. And I agree to an extent because I feel this way about film scores in a way that I don't about just like regular music. But he says, all human beings come equipped to be able to suspend our disbelief, to be transported more by music than any other single art stimulus. Music with our eyes closed will take us to places that no other medium or art form can take us.
Okay.
I mean, as a musician and former music teacher, I agree with that.
Oh my God, stop it with your humble bragging. No, you know what? I was about to refute it because I think our sense of taste can really captivate that. But thinking about it, like I remember I have read books where I was listening to a particular song, and if I hear that song, even years later, I'm immediately transported back to the section of the book I was reading. So yeah, Williams is spot on.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, not just music, but sound too. Like I listen to a lot of audiobooks and I find that they come alive in a really special way that is hard to be recreated on the page, which not that eye reading will ever replace ear reading, but it's just a unique way to experience. Exactly.
All right. So poor Chrissy, played by Susan Black-Linney. She is the woman on the poster. She's the woman who opens the spoon.
She is not the woman on the poster because remember, they used the paperback poster.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so it's a
well, in
different
that
model.
case, we cast this girl to look great, just like that paperback model. So all Chrissy wants to do is get a little bit of skinny dipping dick. And guess what? Our impotence storyline begins here because Cassidy, who is played by Jonathan Filey or Philly, he cannot get it up, nor can he get those clothes down. So she tries to get this boy to come out with her into the water. She's out there. He's passed out on the beach. And I mean, what do you want to say about this? It's fantastic because we see nothing except this girl getting ravaged in the water, and then she is dragged under, just like that poor little boy in real life.
Yeah. And then she just slips under the water and she's gone. That's the thing that always hits me,
Right.
It's her ADR, because all of her dialogue is ADR.
So much
obviously.
screaming.
But because and Spielberg was apparently pouring water down her throat while she was doing this in the sound booth. But there are always two moments that really truly terrify me in this scene. And it's all her sound, but she first gets pulled under, Spielberg pulling her under, by the way, and it's the the really rapid breathing.
The gaspy breathing, yeah.
But then there's a cut where we go back to the kid on the beach, and then we cut back, and right before the cut starts, there's this guttural, almost belching sound coming out of her mouth. I don't know why that scares me more than any of the visuals in this scene. It just sounds so primal and death.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me it's always when she gets to the buoy and you think,
me too.
Is she gonna make it? Is she gonna be able to climb on? And then she's only there for a second, then she's dragged back in.
Yeah.
And her final death drag is the least violent part of her scene.
Right. It's just bloop.
Yeah, she's just gone.
The way they did this too, so they Black-Linney had a harness attached to her cutoff jeans. She was wearing cutoff jeans this entire time.
Oh, the chafing,
I thought the same thing. But they had a line that would go to 5 people on one rope on one side of her and 5 people on another rope on another side because he wanted this back and forth effect and wanted to see the force of the shark that's carrying her across the water. And so basically, whenever one team was pulling her one way, she made sure that her arms went the other way.
Right, and you can see that perfectly in the film.
Yeah, it's to me, this is one of the most violent, non-gory scenes in cinema history.
Absolutely, and it's terrifying. And this is one of the scenes where I think, are my kids ready to watch this yet? And
the opening scene.
Exactly. I know, it's just very scary. And we're going to the beach this summer, so I don't know.
The funny thing is, so this movie, because again, there wasn't a PG-13 rating, so it was either PG or R. And the only moment in this film that gave them, we might have to give you an R rating, that Spielberg trimmed down by a couple of shots, is the shot of the severed leg in the estuary hitting the bottom floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Which to me, I'm just like, this is the body part, but
I love it.
I love, but to me, this is more up.
This is
absolutely. This is super upsetting. Yeah, and I think it's so it's gorgeous too. I love that it's it feels like it's dusk,
so
but it might
black.
be dawn. Yeah, and then when she's gone, it's so serene too. It's like she was never there.
In the book, it's nighttime. In the original script, it was nighttime. But there's in one of these documentaries, they show the page of notes on the script, and one of them says, "Peter's right. Make it dawn and not dusk. Make it dawn and not nighttime."
Okay.
Yeah, they were partying all night, and she thinks, okay, it's nearly daytime, perfect time to go for a dip. But also, it feels like when she goes under, and as you said, Jen, so eloquently, it's like she's just gone, as if she was never there. It feels like it matches the fact that it's a new day, right?
Yeah.
And I will say, because I think the book is fine. The stuff they cut out of the book needed to be cut out of the book. It's so.
Oh my God, can you imagine a mafia storyline in this movie?
Well, and, honestly, I don't think the character's that likable in the book. But like, I will say, when Benchley is writing from the shark's POV, like this scene is so good in the book. Any scene from the shark's POV, I think, is really, really well written.
Was he called the Great Fish?
Fun.
I think
he calls it a bunch of different shit, but something like that. But like,
the great shit, yeah.
But it's also, I guess, even for me, I'm not used to reading like a lot of aquatic horror in books, and so like, he nailed that. He nails the fish stuff and not the human stuff in that book. I think
I agree.
He just understands fish better.
Yeah.
Okay, so we now have our introduction to Chief Martin Brody, who is played by Roy Scheider, and he is married to Ellen, who is Lorraine Gary, and they have 2 young sons. So we have Michael, who is Chris Rebello, and Sean, who doesn't fucking matter.
Not till 2.
Not till 2, I know.
Well, yeah.
And then 3, and then 4.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yes.
So we will come to learn that the family is relatively new to Amity. They have moved from New York City and they're adjusting to the culture. This is going to be their first summer in town, and hence the jokey line that I used off the top where they're kind of mocking the locals, the way that they speak. It's just a slower way of life, but this is something that the family wanted. And I will say, I had to do that stupid thing where I was like, did I just miss it? Like, do we understand what happened in New York that drove them to Amity? Because Brody at one point does talk about the New York crime rates. And, you know, we obviously also learn that he has a fear of the water. And we don't have a concrete backstory for either of those 2 incidents. It's just things that you can infer, and they help to inform the character. But also, if you don't pick up on it or you don't fully understand it, it doesn't hurt the film. And I love that.
I actually like that too, though, because I think if you gave Brody a backstory, like he had some tragic history with water or whatever, like that's not as relatable as if, he just happens to have a fear of drowning in the water.
Exactly, which is an understandable fear, you know?
I will say most people assume that he did have a near drowning incident as a child. That seems to be the most common reading of it.
But that's viewers putting their read on it, you know?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's that simplicity I love because I don't have to overcomplicate the story. And I think in 2, I do get a little frustrated with Brody because I'm pulling on this backstory from the first film. So I like that he's just fresh Brody here.
Right. Yeah. So fresh and so clean.
Exactly. And, a little bit dreamy. For like a non-stud, he's very hot in this.
Yeah, I do think Brody's pretty. I mean, this is like peak Richard Dreyfuss hot for me. Like, I
Same.
think he's very hot in this movie.
It's the beard, I think.
Yeah. And I just, also the shaggy hair, you know? Like, he just doesn't, like, this is, yeah.
He's looking great. Yeah.
Not so much the chest sweater, though. I think I could live without that.
It depends on what you're interested in.
Well, that's true. That's just not a thing for me. I like the shaggy hair on
Jen,
his
there
head.
aren't many options on the island of Amity.
That's true.
It's true. It's a small community.
He spends a lot of time on boats, and who cares, you know?
Yeah.
Also, he needs the warmth, maybe? I don't know.
So one of the prevailing themes of this movie is watching Brody go from kind of helpless or out of his depth to finding his way and becoming a kind of like traditional archetype of masculinity. So early on, you know, he's mildly controlling. Like, he doesn't fully understand how to communicate with the locals. He's very bad at asserting his role as the chief of police. But even stuff like he's so protective of the kids, you know, he hasn't set up the swing set, so he doesn't want them out there. He doesn't want Michael to go in the new boat. And if he does go in the boat, it can't go in this body of water, only that one. So he's trying to assert himself, but he is painted as emasculated or even castrated.
Yeah, and I think out of his depth is a good way to describe it, because even when he goes into the office, like he can't figure out the filing system. He's having a hard time like figuring out what his priorities should be. And then as soon as there's a problem too, like he gets immediately drowned out by the town selectmen too.
Yes, yeah.
Not to jump ahead, sorry.
No, we're basically there because, like the discovery of Chrissy's body sort of kickstarts a bunch of things, but I love how this is like this is, yes, we'll say a murder by a shark, Trace.
Yes.
But this is obviously a very different kind of crime than what Brody would normally be held responsible for, solving or spending his time on, because we hear the most pressing issue that he should be focusing on is the fact that kids are karate chopping picket fences around
I
town.
love that. They're karateing the picket fences. I love this lady so much.
Yeah, me too.
So as he is moving around, because, okay, we've got a shark, so we need to be mindful about the beaches, because we learn very quickly that we are bearing down on the 4th of July weekend. This is the kickstart of summer, much like the summer blockbuster season. So he goes and gets supplies for Deputy Hendricks, who, as you mentioned, Trace, is played by Jeffrey Kramer, and we are going to close the beaches. So we've made an executive decision. This is what's happening.
Also, so to tie into this whole, we need the summer dollar stuff. Important to know, just historical context, like Jaws comes out at a time when the U.S. was coming out of a time of civil unrest, the Vietnam War and Watergate. So the idea of a corrupt politician trying to hide something from the citizens was very relatable and powerful to viewers at the time.
Yes, and also 74. Were we starting to get things like men being threatened by women's lib movements, feeling like they need to assert their authority, their dominance, and so on?
I think that's the thing. Is like a big factor of Jaws' success is obviously how well crafted it is and how good it is. But I really do think it just came out at the right point in time.
Yeah. It's a great film, but it also gets that lucky, everything just clicks for it.
And I think it's digestible political commentary also,
Digestible.
Sorry.
It's not a bipartisan commentary. It's a, hey, everyone hates this.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to understand too. Like I'm thinking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre also, which was 74. And it's just it's making a political statement, but you can also enjoy the movie on its own merits. And that political message just kind of seeps in.
Yeah, it's so interesting how people fixate on Mayor Larry Vaughn, who is played by Murray Hamilton, because basically this is when he shows up and says, oh my God, what are you doing? We absolutely can't get those Boy Scouts out of the water. We can't close the beaches. If you, what does he say? You yell shark and we've got a panic on our hands.
On the 4th of July.
On the 4th of July.
To which I say, though, well, if it's already July 4th, they're already there. So,
hypothetically.
It's
but
fine.
we will get a montage of everybody arriving just the next day.
Bus is just pouring them out.
Yeah. But I guess I love this idea that we can fixate on this mayor as the villain. He's almost a supporting villain, but also, as you said, Jen, the film kind of doesn't really care about that political messaging because he disappears 1/3 of the way through the film.
Oh, yeah. Once we are on the boat, there's no more Amityville. I'm sorry. There's no more Amity.
Freudian slip.
He is in the Amityville Horror too, though. But he's an evil priest, I think. Maybe not
that
evil.
Makes sense,
he's a frustrating priest. It was interesting to watch this kind of pop up when COVID started happening too. Because I think this closing the beaches and erring on the side of caution, but also hindsight being 2020,
No, it's 2025, Jen.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me. You mentioned in the little mini primer, $7 million is not nothing. He does have a legitimate concern. And I think in the movie, when you take that mafia storyline out, where he's not pressured by outside forces and it's not so self-interested, then he is looking out for the survival of the town. So I get it.
No, Joe, you said something along those lines at the top of the episode too. I do agree. It's if I wasn't the mayor, I'd be like, yeah, sure, fuck, close the beaches. But if I'm the mayor and the success of this town depends on the decisions that I make.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm what are the odds of a shark attacking someone again?
And obviously, jumping ahead, we do get this emergency town council meeting, but it's not like he's the only one advocating for 24-hour shutdown or no shutdown at all. None of these local business, they're like, what? We had one attack. What are we going to do? Write off the entire fucking summer? They're all in support of staying open and getting the cash.
But the issue is, though, they don't know about Chrissy's death. So they think Kittner's death is the first attack when it's the second.
Yeah, that is the big thing.
And I think it's also we're trying to prove a negative too. Say they do close the beaches and then nobody gets eaten by a shark because nobody's in the water. What do you do the next day? And then the next, how long is this going to last? And when do you know it's safe? And so I understand. you know?
Yeah. Like we're saying 24 hours, but how do we know if we reopen the beaches in 48 that it won't just happen again? You don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's clear that the mayor has a kind of blinders on where he is saying, I don't actually care about any of that. I just need the cash.
There's a moment where he says this animal allegedly hurt some bathers. And I was like,
allegedly.
You saw that little boy get eaten.
Well, yes, let's talk about the boy. So we know that Chrissy has been chomped down and we have like looked at her body and it's not good. The medical examiner, Robert Nevin, initially signed off on this shark attack and then walks it back under political pressure when the mayor shows up with all of his cronies and basically tells, hey, Brody, no, you're not doing this. Like, we're going to take you out on a little bit of a ride. This almost feels like a mafia moment, right?
Yeah,
you know,
the strong arm fairy.
Yeah, we're going to take you out on this little, rafty ferry thing, and you're going to do as we say.
Yeah, these anchors on my jacket, that's what I'm going to put on your feet when I dump you in the ocean.
Right? You're replaceable.
Exactly.
Okay, so we decide, all right, the beaches are going to stay open. So cut to a very crowded beach because all of these new people have arrived in town. Ellen is there. So is Brody. He's keeping an eye out on the water because he's very attentive.
This is actually a scene that I did have to watch in a film class because we were specifically studying this entire scene. You think, it's about the shark attack on Alex Kintner, but it's really all about Brody. Everything is about Brody in this scene, and we are really loving the split diopter shots in this scene.
Oh yeah,
and we get the push pull when Alex dies, but like this is just like a masterclass, I think, in building tension and suspense.
Absolutely.
Because you know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
And it's horror in the daylight, too. Like, it is so sunny, but there's such a feeling of dread here.
My favorite moment is when Mr. Taff leans over and blocks Brody's vision so he can't see the water anymore. And it's this extreme close-up. And no offense to this man, but he's sunburnt and just kind of all over the place.
He's an islander.
Yeah.
He's an islander.
But like in real life.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And we're told by Mrs. Taff, his wife, who's played by Fritzy Jane Courtney, like we're hearing on the side this conversation between her and Ellen goes, well, when will I be an islander? And Mrs. Taff just goes, oh, you were born here. You'll never be an islander.
Never, yeah.
And that's something from Benchley's life, by the way, like because he was an islander on Nantucket.
I love this too. And, I haven't mentioned Stephen King just yet.
Oh my God, Jen, this is a new benchmark for you.
I know. It's 125 minutes in, an hour and 25 minutes in. Yeah, I just love this idea of like the inner town and the outer town and how Brody, it should be an inner towner because he works here. He's like in charge of keeping them all safe. But because he wasn't born here, he will never be one of them. And so they're never fully going to trust him. And it does make you wonder if he was born on the island,
would they believed him?
Yeah, exactly. Or would they be more willing to go along with closing the beaches?
Yeah. And I 100% think that is part of the underlying conflict, at least early on, before, like, everything changes in this movie when we get onto the orca and we go out into the water. But all of this town shenanigans, it's so interesting to me, too, because I'm so used to the narrative being about the conflict between smarter, like classier people and they diminish townies, right? Like I'm thinking of Barb in Black Christmas and her disparaging remarks about townies. And it feels like that's the common narrative we see. Never mind the fact that, oh, you moved from New York City. Well, you're actually not welcome here.
Right. Well, and there is much more of a like economic class structure in the book, I think. And they've taken quite a bit of that out. Like, because it's the wealthy people who come to the island. And I believe in the story, Ellen used to be a summer person on Amityville. And that's how she knew Matt. And that's how they ended up having an affair. Because he was like one of the tennis playing tan people with the fancy alligator on his shirt.
Oh my God.
And I do kind of like that they excised that from the movie because I don't think we need it. I think we have enough of it with the town. Totally. Yeah. And also Matt's a dick there and I need him scruffy with a beard.
Right. Yes. Okay. Any thoughts about, Trace, you mentioned that this is a bit of a masterclass in tension. I want to say we know that something is going to happen. So it's just a matter of when, but the fact that we are killing this child. So little Alex Kinter, who is played by Jeffrey Voorhees.
Oh, hey.
But yeah, I love that he just goes out on this inflatable raft and then we see him get plunked down and red starts to rise to the surface.
So there's this like, infamous shot where you can actually see the shark's head coming out of the water and like getting the boy. And
oh, really?
Yeah, because there's a couple scenes in this movie that were definitely cut down again with shark stuff. But I will say on that 50th anniversary documentary, you do get to see the making of that scene with the shark. Basically, it's a profile shot of the mechanical shark coming and biting a dummy on this raft.
Okay. How does it look?
Oh, I mean,
terrifying.
Well, I mean, it looks like a mechanical shark biting it down because you can see some.
Okay.
It's a profile view, so you can see the machinery. Like the way it was shot. Like if it was in the film, it would have been from facing the shark's mouth.
I see. Okay.
But if you've seen that photo and you're like, wow, I really want to see them shoot this, like you can see a clip of that in this documentary.
Nice. Okay. I will say this sequence also has one of my other favorite things. It'll be better later, but I do love to watch a stampede. So people like hauling ass out of the water when they realize that's blood. Enjoyable.
Yeah.
For me, like again, this is way harsher than PG, but like we see this kid flailing as a blood geyser is shooting around him.
Yes, it's great,
and it's just the balls to kill a kid too.
Yeah. 15 minutes into the movie,
exactly. I love it, and I also love the stampede. And this time, I noticed this mom who just grabs her child and hugs them and starts like wailing.
Yeah.
And they're not continuing to go out of the water. And I'm like, lady, what are you doing?
Get out of the water.
But the stampede looks pretty dangerous too. Like there are some elderly people who like just face plant into the water. And
oh no, that's the later one, Jen.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm telling you right now, if there's a shark in the way, you better get out of my fucking way.
Exactly.
I will trample you.
For sure. Yeah.
We also see grown men like pushing kids over on rafts too.
No child is safe in my path.
Okay, I guess we're keeping that all in, but that is actually the second one.
Oh, okay.
No, it's like, we're still talking about stampedes, though.
Sure. And of course, because I feel like people will expect us to say, yes, we do get this great zoom dolly in on Brody's face when he realizes what's happening.
Yeah, and this is Bad Hat Harry also, right? This is the moment.
Bad Hat Harry?
No, I think that's later. Sorry. That's some Bad Hat Harry. That's the production company.
Oh.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's Bryan Singer's production company.
Okay.
But he named it because Brody tells
Brody
tells the guy, that's some bad hat, Harry.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I see.
But
okay.
we don't need to talk about Bryan Singer, so sorry about that.
Let's not.
No, but I'm sorry. It is this scene, though. It's when the old man gets out of the water.
That's it, yeah.
Because he thinks it's like the shark head about to get this woman.
So he has the bad hat. Yeah.
Interesting. So obviously we now have 2 shark deaths. So we go into this emergency town council. Mrs. Kinter, who is played by Lee Ferrero, offers a $3,000 reward. So again, this is calling back to those 1916 real life attacks where boys are getting killed. Parents or people are offering $3,000 reward money for the shark. And folks, let's introduce Quint, who is played by Robert Shaw. And oh boy, did he need to scratch the chalkboard for that long?
No.
Yes.
I hate it. I fast forwarded that this time. I was like, I can't do it.
Everything about Quint is excess.
Yes.
Oh my God, that is true. Yeah. Okay, so he offers his services as a shark hunter for $10,000, but he also only wants to do it by himself because he is a loner and he's a person who marches to the beat of his own drum.
Yes, he's a bit of a loose cannon.
One might say, yes. In Belinki's piece, he talks about how, in some ways, Quint is like the archetype of what a traditional Hollywood lead would have been, and how this film helps to usher in Brody as the sort of fallible everyman who takes his place into future blockbusters. Ooh. So I thought that was an interesting observation.
I like that, yeah. Yeah, he does have this kind of rugged, like, older... For the Girls on the Boys, we've been watching a lot of Charles Bronson movies, and he does kind of have that older school vibe to him, you know?
Yeah. Like, I paid my dues. I know my shit. Get out of my way. I'll do it myself.
Yeah, whereas Brody is more of a family man. He's a protector also, but he's sensitive because he's got this fear. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so that night, Brody starts to do his research, and the locals decide they're going to take things into their own hand, try to get that money. So we watch as Den Herder, who is played by Edward Chalmers Jr., and Charlie, who is played by Robert Chambers, go out, try to bait the shark. And I love this pier scene. Yeah. Like, the way it gets dragged out into the water, the way we don't see the shark fin, we just see this disembodied pier coming towards him.
Turn around, by the way.
It's so good.
And this is actually my favorite piece of score in the film, because it's still our dunna, dunna, dunna. But when that pier turns, the score gets way more intense, where it goes down almost an entire octave, where it's like...
Charlie, take my word for it! Don't look back! Swim, Charlie! Swim! Come on, Charlie! Swim!
Boom, boom, boom. It gets more like bombastic, and it is my favorite sound cue in the film every time.
I love it. And I also love that the scene still has a little bit of humor to it, you know? It's not totally dire.
Yeah, well, these men are too old for this shark because, as we said, the shark is ageist. It only likes them young and fresh.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
And it's important, though, because we believe that even though these are no non-characters, like, we believe that they could die because we just saw a kid die.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and we also believe that they're safe if they're on a dock or something and it just pulled a dock apart.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This is great, but if you want to see this done to a maximalist version, do go and watch Orca, because we pull an entire fucking house into the ocean in that movie.
I've not seen that.
I do like Orca. I finally got to watch it after Joe, for years, telling me to watch it. And
yeah.
I got to say, like, I don't think it's a Jaws ripoff. I think it's a ripoff in the sense that, we made a movie called Orca because Jaws was successful.
Sure.
But the movie takes a very different approach. It's a very, conservationist approach to this material.
Yeah, like, you actually side with the orca and you want it to kill the main character.
Ooh, well, that
it's
sounds
great.
fun.
Cannot recommend Orca enough.
And some good orca action, too.
Yes.
I always love some good orca action.
Also
Who
blended in
doesn't?
with real life footage, too. So they did the same thing Jaws did, but
Well, orcas will
it's
fuck
good
you
stuff.
up.
No, they will absolutely fuck you up.
Well, don't kill its mate and cut its baby out of its uterus.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Or
fair.
don't be a rich asshole out on the sea.
Also good
as we
advice.
learned in real life.
Yes, true.
Okay, so the next day, amateurs begin swarming the dock because they are also after that $3,000 reward. And this is our introduction to wisecracking oceanographer Matt Hooper, who is played by Richard Dreyfuss. And I just put in my notes, he is hot here and political garbage in our current timeline. So, in case you were wondering, he's not an advocate for diversity. He just is racist. So yay.
Ooh.
I saw that. I remember that. It was like a year or two ago. I am choosing to believe that he is senile.
Yeah, so Hooper, great. Richard Dreyfuss,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can thirst after this hot young specimen throughout the entire film, and we don't have to politically align ourselves with the actor.
Okay, but Hooper or Brody? Because I think for me it's Brody.
Oh, no, it's Hooper.
Really?
Oh,
Well-
Hooper all day, every day.
Okay, well, I guess we won't have to fight then.
No.
I guess I'll take Quint.
Hey, look, he has his own boat, okay?
He does have his own
There
boat,
we go.
yeah.
Yes. And also no legs, so.
That's true.
Okay, so Hooper's introduction onto the scene is, yes, he's making a bunch of jokes and he's making observation about these townies, but in his defense, they are doing things like throwing fireworks and chum into the water. So these people, I don't even think they're townies, right? These are people who have come from out of town because they saw the newspaper advertisement.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're drunk, not quite local yokels.
There we go.
Also, Phil needed to say it. Chumming, bad, bad, bad. Don't do it.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's illegal in the U.S.
Really?
Is it?
Why is that? Because it attracts predators?
I think it's that, but I think it's also like it does like negatively affect a lot
Oh, it
of
affects up
things.
the ecosystem, right?
It says the danger composed by conditioning sharks to associate feeding with human presence.
Oh,
okay.
no.
Also,
Yeah.
I don't want to swim in a water with gross chum in it, too. So,
Sure. It's just funny because you said, oh, that's illegal. And I thought you were going to say fireworks because fireworks are illegal in Canada.
Fireworks are illegal in the neighborhood I live in now, but not in the one I used to live in. And it's like there's so many around.
And actually, I have to admit this. It is illegal in parts of the U.S., like Alabama has it illegal, but Florida has restrictions in saltwater areas.
Okay. This is chumming, not fireworks.
Sorry, yes, chumming, yes.
I was
Fireworks
like, I'm
totally
sorry,
fine in
fireworks are
Florida.
not illegal in Florida because
we're all over
nothing
the
is
place.
illegal in Florida.
Yeah,
Right,
we're all
that's
over
how
the
we
place.
got Florida Man.
But Alabama bans chumming. I just think that's really funny.
Wow. Okay. Well, I wonder if it's just because it has a lot of fishermen.
Yeah,
Probably.
could be.
Yeah. I mean, it's on the coast.
A lot of rural areas too.
Sure. Okay, let's take a trip to the morgue so we can take a look at Chrissy's body. This is such a good exercise in restraint because we're learning everything we need to know by Hooper's description, but we only see a disembodied arm.
Yeah, and just like netting, I think, too.
Yeah, but also like his reaction upon first viewing the remains is like I think honestly, yes, the arm looks great, but Dreyfuss's face tells you
It's
everything you need
shit.
to know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
My favorite line reading is, "This was not a boating accident." Like, he gets
He's so
increasingly
indignant.
incensed throughout the scene, too. I love it.
Well, yeah, because it's basically a conspiracy, right? I
Right.
mean, what are we doing here? This is obviously a shark or an animal attack.
Yeah, and a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this gets cut short because everybody is celebrating because we have caught a shark. Of course, this will be revealed to be a tiger shark. And Hooper almost immediately understands this is not the villain that we are looking for because the bite radius does not match what I just saw happen to that poor girl.
And the way that everyone is so quick to shut him down too. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah. This whole story would be infuriating if you're Hooper. It's like, I have this knowledge. Don't you want to listen to me to help yourself? But no, they just want to shut him
Wait,
down.
not listening to experts who know the thing in their field and politicians being money? No,
Well, it's
can't
because
compute.
Big Shark is trying to shut us down, okay?
It's true. Yeah. Okay, so the mayor does refuse to cut the shark open. It wouldn't be proper to have all the guts on the pier in front of everybody. Also, we've got the photographer taking pictures, so it's all about the narrative, and the mayor refuses to deviate.
Now, I do agree with this decision. That is a sound point that we don't want to cut this thing open and have this corpse
well, not now.
spill out.
But, like,
But yes, later
No,
you
but
absolutely
yeah.
should. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he doesn't even entertain the idea. It's we're not doing it here, and we're not doing it later either.
Ever. Yeah.
The mayor is in a firm ignorance is bliss mindset. Like, if I don't see it,
100%.
it's not real.
Well, and
Truly.
problem solved. We got a shark.
There we go.
So we're
It's a
good.
win-win, everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and we sort of wrap this scene up by saying, like, fuck, the mayor is an asshole. And then, just to, do insult to injury, Mrs. Kinter shows up because she knows now, oh, my son should have never been in the water. It wasn't safe. You knew somebody else had been injured. And she just hauls off and slaps Brody right in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll never see this woman again, but like I think this is actually, again, it's a really crucial character moment for Brody, but also, why doesn't the mayor get slapped?
Well, I think that's what makes it so impactful because, I mean, Jen, we're talking a lot about Dr. Death, or we just wrapped up our discussion of that. And it's like this idea that the people who are trying to do right often end up being the ones who get punished. So, of course, the mayor wouldn't get slapped in the face, even though he's the person who deserves it. It's Brody who's the public face. Of
Absolutely. I was thinking that too. It's this misplaced anger because he is the one that is charged with protecting the town too. And what she doesn't know is that he tried to do everything he could. And then you see Brody start to think, well, did I do everything I could? Could I have stopped this?
Yeah. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's thinking about that very clearly at dinner that night.
Yeah.
We do get this moment where his son begins to impersonate his behavior. And I wonder, do the two of you read this as sort of symbolic of his impotence or his castration? Or is this more, oh, if I don't behave in a better fashion, my son is going to learn all the wrong lessons?
I don't think I'd ever thought too much about this scene.
Yeah, I like the read, though.
I do too. That's really interesting. I had heard that this was ad-libbed, I believe, also.
Oh, I could see that.
The
Well,
give us a kiss part?
A lot of this, not just from the locals, but a lot of this movie, especially on the boat at the end, was ad-libbed,
Really? Interesting.
I think
Okay.
my read of this moment, I just kind of see this as like three different types of masculinity. And it makes me really like Brody because he seems to have this genuine connection with his son right here that I really like. Now, I could take the opposite read and say, well, this is a quiet moment at dinner while your wife's been taking care of everything while you're off at work, but it is a sweet moment. And I think I don't necessarily see impotence, but That is a fascinating read on it.
Yeah, like he's seeing it reflected back in his son's face. Like, this is what you look like right now.
Yeah.
You should be a stronger man. You should have done right by that woman.
Interesting. The moment I like at dinner is when he just glugs the wine into the cup.
God. Yeah.
Just
yeah.
deadpan, too.
So Hooper shows up. He basically invites himself in, even though dinner's already done. Michael's already left the table and everything. I like the continuation of the scene because, like we're getting Brody Spear the water out on the table. We're understanding who Hooper is as a bit of a man. Like he wants to work with Brody because he understands he's the only person who's going to do anything. The only person who gives a shit in this town.
Yeah.
But like Brody's fear is getting the better of him. So we glug that wine. I also like this moment for Brody and Ellen's marriage because she's not in this movie a ton. I knew about the affair in the book and how people don't entirely like it, or they understand that the book and the film are doing very different things with this marriage.
Yeah.
But I think that Brody and his wife are sexy. Like, we really get it in the second movie where it's, like, clear that they be fucking.
Well, I mean, in this movie, she has that line earlier, which is like, you want to get drunk and fool around? And it's like,
yes, I love that line.
All right, yeah. And that was, by the way, I think also an ad-lib.
Ooh.
That's a great ad-lib. Okay, so the real reason that Hooper is here is because they caught a shark, not the shark. So he is trying to encourage Brody to come with him. Even though the mayor said we can't, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to cut open the shark. So we do it. Are there fart noises on this soundtrack as we are cutting the shark open? Because I could have sworn I heard like a...
I think that's just the sound of the innards hitting the floor.
Sure.
I did not hear. I've never heard a fart sound in this fucking
it would make sense that if you're cutting open a dead body, you are releasing
gases and so on. Yeah.
That does feel like a strange ADR ad, though, or
right?
Foley
Yeah, I was
work.
like, clearly we aren't actually cutting the shark open.
Well, look,
so.
we wanted to film it on the open sea for authenticity, and if a shark makes fart sounds, then we got to add them in too. Exactly.
Yeah. Authenticity, it's all the way.
Exactly.
Anyway, we cut it open. We do not discover what we are looking for, even though the results are disgusting. But there's no little Alex Kintner in there. So, our shark problem is still on the loose.
Yep.
And then they decide, we're going to go out in the water right now.
Yeah, because we're drunk and why not?
That's the thing, right? Is it definitely feels like, well, I've got pretzels, you've got booze. Let's get out in the water and solve this thing. So, and then we, of course, find another dead body.
Yeah.
Every time, man, this gets me. This is a masterful jump scare.
It's real good.
Yep.
Real good.
Yeah. And it also functions to the story, too, because he drops the tooth.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's such an aggravating moment. But it also foreshadows that he's going to do it again with the spear. I was going to
say, he likes to drop things when he gets scared.
Well,
Truly.
okay. And is this furthering the impotence narrative?
Maybe. I mean, Hooper isn't much better in terms of like man than Brody.
Well, he's got city hands,
I mean, okay, so we're going to talk about it. 'Cause we're almost to the queer reading portion of the episode, folks. Okay, so yes, we find the body, we discover the shark tooth, we drop it, so now we've got no proof, but we do decide, okay, we need to make another effort, we need to make another run of the mayor. So that's what they do the next day. They tell him that is a great white shark because of the tooth, and they think that opening the beaches is going to be like ringing the dinner bell. And there's two pieces I want to talk about here. One is I love this vandalized billboard with the cartoon girl going, "Help, shark!"
And that the proportions are correct, too. I love that moment.
It looks great. Like, whoever vandalized this has a career in graffiti and or cartoons.
I think they drew the shark on the chalkboard, also. Like
maybe. Was it Quint?
Maybe.
Okay, and the second more serious piece is that we do see Hooper pat Brody's stomach here. So when he gets irate and upset over how Mayor Vaughn is responding to all this, he kind of gives him this pat like, it's okay, buddy. We're going to get through this. And this is where I start to bring in Jen Corrigan's piece. So she definitely starts to note this idea of like male touching, men touching each other's hands, how there's so much intimacy. And part of this is just by proximity, like the way that Spielberg shoots the film. It's often very tight. People are forced together within the frame of the film. And then obviously we put 3 men on a boat and there's not a lot of room to play with. So it creates a sense of intimacy, but there is also this underlying queerness about Hooper, and then we get to Quint as well. Okay, so Mayor Vaughn basically insults Hooper and says, you just want to get into National Geographic and I can't trust you. And then this is when all the crowds arrive for July 4th. And we just see Ellen, Hooper, and Brody making these frantic calls to try to get everybody they can. Hey, can you come out and help us? We're going to monitor the beaches. So that's what we do. Hooper is out on the water. He's patrolling using sonar. We've got Brody on the beach walking around. We've got Peter Benchley doing his cameo as a reporter. And I do love this. Like, this is not what happened in 1916. Like, it took a while for the reporters to really catch on and say this is front page worthy news. But I love that this guy says there's a cloud in the shape of a killer shark over this beach this summer.
And again in my notes I was like, Mayor's making this poor old man and his family like and get in the water, but they're kids.
Oh my god!
And I was
Shouldn't
like,
you be in the water by now?
I was like, you've got the money, dude. Like they're there. They're at your beach. Like all these people are here. Let them do what they want.
Yeah, it's like he wants these people to die.
Exactly. Well, and I think we do see a couple of people from that board meeting earlier too. And so it's like, it's one thing to say you want the beaches open. It's another thing to go in the water yourself.
Sure.
Right? Like, get the mayor.
Why didn't he go in first if he really wanted to set the precedent? Because he is worried.
I genuinely can't believe we don't kill. Because in the book, the mayor just skips town to escape the mafia. And so I can't believe we don't use that as an excuse to kill him in this movie. And that he was apparently reelected for Jaws 2. But luckily, he's very much on Brody's side in Jaws 2.
That's true. Yes.
Well, we killed several people in this movie. So hopefully he learns a lesson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this as a visual because, it not only allows us to hiss at this villainous mayor figure when he goads this man and his family into the water, but then we watch as it basically ushers in this herd mentality of, oh, well, 4 people are in the water, so we should go in the water. And it just... everybody follows suit.
Yeah, I mean, because you just have to swim faster than the next person.
I was going to say,
oh my God.
Me in this scene, I'm like, okay, just be next to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And don't be the one that gets attacked.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Wow.
And there's a
Where
great
are
day
the
at the
Americans
beach.
on the podcast right now? All I have to do is look out for myself and be faster than the other person.
You know what? I will grab a child and drag him up with me. Whatever.
Oh my
sure,
God.
it's fine.
What are you, Billy Zane on the Titanic?
Oh,
She's
100%.
all I have in the world.
She's all I have.
So the only person who does not get to go in the water is Mike, and that's because Ellen tells him to get over to the estuary, which is the old lady pond, because we think, oh, well, it's still the water, but it's not the ocean, so we should be fine, because, of course, we don't know what we're dealing with.
Exactly. We got that shark book, but we didn't read it. We just looked at the pictures.
I will say... this sequence, I think, is also one of the scariest in the film because the shot of the shark where you can kind of see it under the water when it's turning, because also apparently it turning sideways is very accurate of what a great white will do when it's moving in for a kill. And so oceanographers were like, that's the most accurate like representation of shark behavior in the film.
Really?
But like that shot of it, just where you can see it under the water and its face, it is terrifying.
Oh, yeah, so creepy. And then I think that's immediately followed by the severed leg falling to the bottom. Yeah.
Because, of course, what we had to do first was we had the fake out with the kids who had bought the cardboard, fin, and that ushers in this massive trampling, which I fucking love. I was like, what is the name for a water-based trampling? Ooh, we need to define it.
We do. Splash bling.
Okay, we'll workshop it.
We'll figure it out.
But like, this is great. And you think, oh, it was a false alarm. Because I won't lie, Trace, I was having flashbacks to Jaws 2 because Brody does this and it's a false alarm. So I was conflating the two films and I thought, okay, so this is or isn't real. And of course, this is the fake one, but it's the distraction and the shark is actually over there where there's only a few people. And I love that subversion.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah, because once that lady starts screaming, shark, like you don't believe her because you just heard it screamed a bunch of times.
But then like the score, because we get the Jaws theme, but it also starts picking up like tempo as Brody starts running. As soon as we get the Michael's in the pond.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Michael gets shock from this sequence. And
rightfully so. He's right in front of this guy who goes down.
And the shark goes right by him, too.
So I didn't know this. So, okay, there is an alternate version of this guy's death scene, the guy who loses his leg.
Oh, this is Estuary Victim, played by Ted Grossman.
Yes, and I say I didn't know this. I must have known it because this footage is in one of those original documentaries from like the early 2000s.
Okay.
But basically, this victim, he is in the shark's mouth, but I mean, you don't see the shark, you just see the fin behind him. But the shark is like carrying him through, basically. But this guy is holding on to Michael during this entire sequence.
Oh, what?
And there is blood coming out of his mouth, and eventually he lets go of Michael, and then that's when we get the shot of of Michael being in shock. But I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
That is super interesting. Do you know if we cut this because of MPAA or that kind of stuff?
Spielberg did this before it even got to the MPAA. He looked at it and he thought it was in poor taste, and it was maybe a bit too graphic, and so he cut it to be something different.
Boo.
Yeah. But you can see a clip of Michael in this guy's hands as the shark is like pushing them through the water.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
That gives me chills.
I had never seen this, and if I have seen this before, I forgot about it, but I was like, holy shit. But that makes sense though, because that was why he had shock in the first place.
Yes.
I mean, no, I think even the cut that we do see, it still makes sense that a child would have shock.
It does, but when you think, but that's what it was meant to be before it was just cut out.
Right.
Well, and also he's got a couple of friends in the water too that help pull him out. So I think that would explain why he has more of a severe reaction than his friends in the water do.
Right.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that was my one where I was like, again, this is something that's been available forever, but I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the one that always gets the attention is Alex Kintner in the shark's mouth, you know?
Exactly.
And we don't talk about this
because we don't have that footage until now.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So as we said, Michael is very much in shock. He needs to stay in the hospital overnight. There is this very telling line where Brody tells Ellen, why don't you go home? And she goes, New York? And you're just like, oh shit. Okay. Apparently scary, dangerous New York is more comforting than staying here in Amity.
Until the land shark hits.
Yes.
Then no one is safe.
Candygram.
The thing that always stands out to me, and it's such a weird thing, is when he asks for coffee ice cream. I'm like, huh.
Oh, I love coffee.
Yeah,
I do too. Oh. It's just not what I expect a kid to ask for.
No, sweetie. Because my grandmother always gave me coffee milk, which was just half coffee, half milk with 2 spoonfuls of sugar. And so my favorite ice cream growing up was always coffee ice cream.
Whoa, seriously? Okay. I don't think I had tasted coffee till I was at least in college.
Yeah, my parents were always like, no coffee, no caffeine until you finish growing, because they were worried it was going to stunt my growth.
Yeah, I was always confused when my friends didn't like coffee ice cream. I was like, it's the sweetest thing. It's so good.
Now it's delicious.
Oh, yeah. I love coffee and pistachio, the best ice cream flavors.
Pistachio, yes.
Pistachio's love pistachio.
Underrated.
No, underwater, Jen.
Underwater, yes. Sorry.
Okay, so obviously the mayor is a little upset by this recent development, as he should be, but we never really get the reaction that I think we as an audience crave from this guy. He never admits responsibility. He just also looks a little bit shocked. You're just like, fuck you, dude.
And we don't get like Game of Thrones style walk of shame, which is what we really want.
Yeah, you should have to walk around town with a fake shark fin on his back while everybody pelts him with tomatoes or something.
Yes, or chum. They should throw chum.
Oh, throw chum on the mayor. Yes. Okay, so Brody basically orders him to hire Quint, and then we go into the back half of the movie. So Brody and Hooper join this rough around the edges sea captain, and he is unimpressed with them because, of course, he wanted to do this all by himself, but he doesn't care for the anti-shark cage, and he certainly doesn't care about Hooper's city hands.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bring back Corrigan because I mentioned touching. It's funny, Trace, because you and I have had so many conversations about how touching is a particularly lesbian thing to see in films. Like, it's a lot of fingers touching and stroking, and, it's meant to
hand
think about Yeah, hand stuff. We don't often think about it for men, and yet in this movie we do get a certain amount of it. So Corrigan says, touching hands is significant in queer intimacy. It is a touch that is erotic, yet can easily be perceived as casual. I like that. The kind of, well, you could do it and it could imply something, but also if people saw it, it could just be, oh, I'm just, like patting their hand, patting their belly. It doesn't mean anything. You could brush it off. So the contrast between Quint's hands and Hooper's hands is obviously an analysis of class, but it is also a touch that is personal. So by examining Hooper's hands, Quint is examining Hooper and his history.
How many women you fucked, son?
Yeah. I will say this is scratching on the chalkboard I don't love, but it does tell us, it's a pretty memorable entrance for this character. But then as we, pack our supplies, we go on the boat, all of these rhyming sentences and catchphrases, I was just like, oh, this is giving bad dad joke vibes, and I don't care for it. I'm not endeared to this character in this moment.
I don't know if I'm ever particularly endeared by Quint. I always have found him kind of an obnoxious character, but
yeah.
But aren't you supposed to be endeared by him or something?
I think some people are endeared by him. I don't know if I'm supposed to be. I think
Okay.
that I'm going to say Spielberg would welcome any tolerance of these characters. I think I like Quint. I like Quint the best when the men are forced to all get along in danger. But I would never be friends with Quint.
No.
Right.
I don't like him. He's too grizzly. I'm like, I don't want to touch you. I think you probably smell like fish. But I love the moment where Brody is like, you're not going to do this on the boat, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so that's the thing. So again, from this point forward, because again, we were getting 5 shots a day if we were lucky.
Oh my God.
A lot of the interactions between the 3 men in the final act was improvisation. So they would record them with tape recordings and write down the dialogue and then build scenes for the next day.
Sure.
Oh, interesting.
Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss did fight a lot. Shaw was extremely competitive and frequently got annoyed with Dreyfuss's young man attitude. But he also it was kind of not exactly method, but kind of part of the character. He was pushing him, and you can see that in their scenes.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. And I think I tend to just not really like Robert Shaw that much.
Well, but here's the thing, though. I've seen interviews of the Shaw because he's a Brit, and he's I don't know. I like him in interviews, but I also haven't seen this is really what I know him from.
Yeah,
right.
Same.
Yeah. Oh, especially for, I think, North American audiences, this is going to be the big one.
Yeah. And he dies 3 years after this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he's like a big Shakespearean actor.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So my queer reading for this film is that this is now basically a throuple film. It's 3 men leave all of the societal pressures, all of the, norms and expectations of mainland life. And they also eschew all women so that they can go out and have manly experiences. And Corrigan supports this. So they say, in the context of Jaws, homoeroticism can flourish because women are taken out of the equation. But the implication isn't that the men are sexually drawn to one another due to the lack of women, but rather eroticism is given room to grow because the experience is not continually contrasted with straightness. So the men are isolated from expectation, from the civilization that is Amity Island, and all that exists is themselves. And then they continue. While we might wish to place Brody, Hooper, and Quint into neat categories, the on-screen evidence of the gaze, of touching, of standing so close together points to a queer intimacy that refuses to be contained within the binary. So, the fact that there are 3 men instead of 2 is a subtle dismantling of the binary view of sexual orientations. There is a sexual power in 3s in general, such as with the predominance of love triangles, and Jaws is no different, even if the love triangle isn't explicit.
Yeah, I guess I always go back to all those stories about Roman Spartan times where it's all the soldiers would often have
The
sex with each
manly
other.
men doing manly things like fucking each other.
But it's because they were away from their women for months and years at a time. So it's well, what are we gonna do? Oh, well, why don't we just fuck each other? And I miss those times.
But I think Corrigan was very specific about saying it's not just that there's no women, so we turn our sexual attraction to other men. Mm-hmm. It's that without the expectations of being attracted to women or acting a particular way around women, men can more fully explore themselves, and maybe that allows queerness and eroticism to blossom.
Yeah, I think I tend to look at this as more of a masculinity read, you know, just because of the shit that I'm wanting to talk about. But I think, like, I really like that idea of erasing the binary. And I think it erases the binary on, like, stereotypical depictions of masculinity also, because there are three very different depictions of masculinity here. We have, like, the scientific Hooper, we have the family man, Brody, and then we have, like, the rugged salt of the earth, like, man's man with Quint.
Isolationist, yeah.
Exactly. And I think none of them are, like, it doesn't feel toxic at all. You know, it's one of these few examples of, like, masculinity on screen without toxicity. And I really love it. Like, they're not, I mean, Quint is kind of pulling
they're
rank.
combative.
They are, but they're not, like, dehumanizing each other, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I feel like if this were made today, like, that would be what happens.
Exactly. And I feel like they all have their area of expertise, too, even though Quint, like, on the boat, there is a clear power structure because he's the captain and that's the way boat shit works. But then Brody's like, well, it's my charter. Like, he is in control in that way. And then Matt is the one that has all of the scientific knowledge. And Quint might kind of look down on it a little bit, but, like, Hooper knows what he's talking about and he knows what sharks do, you know?
Yeah, I think if you look at this as, again, the sort of regular person to hero journey for Brody specifically, I think early on in these sections, he's very much painted as something of a child or a novice, right? So as you mentioned, Jen, there's an order and he gets all of the shitty grunt work to do, right? So he has to do the chum in the water. He has to be taught how to tie knots. Whereas Hooper and Quint get to really take on different, more specific roles. But in a way, we've reestablished a kind of new nuclear family. So this is where I bring Matthew Belinkie back in, and his overthinkingit.com piece identifies this as the bickering parents in this new nuclear family. So, and what's interesting is he actually conflates this with Spielberg's real life family. So Quint is the salty wisdom and folklore, which is very similar to Spielberg's artsy concert pianist mother. And scientist Hooper is like Spielberg's electrical engineering father. So this is basically like the dynamic on the boat is the bickering parents and their awkward son trying to prove himself, which is just a little autobiographical. See also Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans.
Yes, I was going to say.
In my situation, do not, because I fucking hate that movie.
Yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't like it. So I will agree.
But I guess I just thought that this was interesting because, like, I don't think that these men are actually interested in fucking each other, but there is this, as you said, Jen, there's this elimination of traditional, like, toxic masculinity. There's competition, but it's more about I'm the person who knows what I'm doing, so stay out of my way or do what I tell you when I do it. And Brody sort of climbs the ladder as the other two become either incapacitated or eliminated.
Yeah.
But it does feel like we have reconfigured a new queer society, right? Where people have to reframe and adjust their roles because we're not on the mainland, we're out on the boat and on the water, and things are just different.
Yeah. The rules of modern society don't apply out in the water.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what would it be like if this could be every day? You know, if we did not have to constantly worry about, like, did somebody see me just touching this guy's hand, you know?
Right.
Like, and that's why I think, you know, I hear your criticism about the pacing, and we are on the water for a long time, but there's a lot of shit happening and it's fun to watch, you know?
I will say, because as a kid, that's why it's funny. I always prefer Jaws 2 to Jaws 1, probably because I saw it first, but also because I just think there's more
It's just more action oriented.
There's more shark action in Jaws 2, even though Jaws 2 is still a 2-hour and 5-minute movie again.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's fire sharks too. That's fun.
Yeah. but I always did find the first Jaws a little boring. And I will say on this rewatch, and maybe it was because we head out into the orca 72 minutes into this movie. There's about 50 minutes left. And so, and the end credits, by the way, are like 2 minutes long. Like, they're very, very, very
they're
short.
So short compared to what we expect now in regular films. It's like 8 minutes of credits. Nope, we're in and out.
Like, I had a memory of this back half of the film taking place over, like, many days. And this is actually just 2 days at sea.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have one night sequence and that's it.
Exactly. And so I found the pacing worked the best for me on this recent rewatch, and maybe it was because I was clocking it and I was like, oh, it's really not like that much. I wasn't really fully present in like the vibe of the scene, but I also I don't know.
It played better.
It did play better for me, and it went by quicker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think in the book they are out for a long time. Like I think it's up to a week or two. So.
Yeah.
I think it's that some of this starts to feel a little repetitive with the like shooting of the harpoons and getting the barrels. And sometimes it's really interesting, especially when Quint becomes surprised, like, oh, well, if he's got 2 barrels attached to him, he can't go under. And then we see that the shark goes under, which is a testament to, oh, Quint, you think you understand this creature, and this motherfucker is subverting your expectations. Like you have never confronted something like this before.
And I love the barrels as a visual tell too.
Oh, it's so good, right?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody's got their different roles. We do have Chekhov's compressed air tank, which Hooper gets very mad at Brody when he nearly spills. So we know those are going to be important later on. And we're kind of waiting around for things to happen, and we learn eventually what Quint's strategy is, because it's not entirely clear how he plans to make this happen. Like, why are we going out into the deeper open water as opposed to trying to lure the shark into shallow waters and get rid of him? And Quint's strategy is to get him to the surface, and then we're going to jab him. Okay, so time passes, and we get then this fantastic shot as Brody is chumming the water, and then he turns his back, and Bruce rears his cutie little head out of the water, and we get the line, "You're gonna need a bigger boat."
This is my favorite moment in the entire film. I love it so much. One, because it's a fake out, because this is, I believe, the first time the shark appears without the music. So we're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just the way that he like bolts back, he doesn't scream, he doesn't panic, he doesn't freak out. He's just like, oh shit, we're fucked.
Well, because he also doesn't even look at Robert Shaw whenever he says this. He can't stop looking at the spot where the shark came from.
Yeah,
and he keeps saying the thing, like this line is iconic, but he keeps saying like, aren't we going to go back and get a boat?
Right?
Exactly, we're going to get a boat.
Yeah. I think because at this point, like, this is definitely the start of his journey. The fact that he doesn't scream, that he doesn't entirely panic, but he also doesn't fully understand how is this going to happen?
Right.
Like, in his mind, the safest option is to go and get a bigger boat, maybe get more men, re-strategize. He's still thinking mainland thought because he's not in sync with Quint in that way.
Yeah.
He hasn't been pushed to his limit yet.
So, A, this is an ad lib on Scheider's part.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
Not kidding. Also, I think, though, especially, even though I've seen this movie several times, I think whenever I hear it, I'm like, oh God, it's a one-liner in the film. So I'm glad you brought up, Jen, that he does say it multiple times, because it's not a one-liner. He literally says, we need a bigger boat.
I didn't make my point. Let me say it 2 or 3 more times.
Right, exactly. More and more frantically every time, too.
Yeah. Well, it's because the shark is still there. Like, they're watching this 25-foot shark circle the boat. And I will say, in terms of building tension and trying to get us to anticipate when is the next attack going to happen, because that's a jump scare. But I love these moments where we see them moving around the edges of the boat, and Spielberg shoots it so it's just their feet on this little narrow ledge around. And you just think, you're not safe. What are you doing?
No, what the fuck? It's wet. You're
Every time one of them, we don't know who it is, but one of them almost slips. And it's like, oh my God, like don't fall in that water.
It's like your stomach just drops. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that tension, but then we are also diffusing it because we've got Hooper, ever the wisecracking kind of comedic relief of the film. He asked Brody to just sort of pose by the edge of the boat so that, we can do
scale.
Yeah, picture for scale. And of course, Quint is also having his own comedic moment where Ellen has called on the radio and he's just like, yep, he's doing all fine. Yeah, can't talk right now. Okay, gotta go. Bye, Ellen. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a moment of like not jovial, but like delightful chaos for us to watch, where they're freaking out. They're like, this thing is huge. What do we do?
Well, and this is when that music kicks in, this jovial pirate music. I can't really understate enough. I can't overstate enough like how much as a kid, I felt so secure. I was like, okay, good. I can like release my tension a little bit because nothing bad is going to happen right now.
Right. Yeah. And I think taking it back to your reading of this, or we're talking about a throuple too, like in this moment, they are all allowed to show genuine fear. Yeah. And work together and be their authentic selves without having to like put on this mask of masculinity here or try to be the big, strong guy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get the harpoon into it because the shark is still close enough. So one barrel in, and then we basically move into the dinner sequence, which is a moment of calmness.
Yes.
So this is where Hooper and Quint really ramp up the queerness. So this is the scar comparison scene as we are all drinking to each other's legs. And Corrigan says, the one-upping of scars is a safe form of touch. So this is a competition because, of course, it's like, oh, wow, you got this. Look at what I've got, which is basically just a big dick contest.
Right.
But it's also a test of boundaries, right? So both physical and emotional. And the climax of this intimacy among the three men is then Quint's famous monologue. So Quint has always been this asshole, salt of the earth, crusty sea captain. He's never allowed us or these other two men in. So the fact that he makes himself vulnerable in this moment is the climax of the explorations of their body. So even more so than the homoerotic touch is him bearing his trauma.
There's this moment, I think I love when the way Matt Hooper's face changes when he says the word Indianapolis, because he knows exactly what that means. But there's a moment before when he's like, is it mother? And then Quint just leans over and like puts his hand on his arm and he's like, I'm about to drop some heavy shit on you. Are you quite ready?
Are you ready for this? But also, I trust you enough to say it.
Right.
But Jen, you, I think, did a little bit of additional work on this. So this is a real event.
It really is. Yeah. And I'm about to drop some heavy shit on you. So.
Okay. Can you reach out and virtually touch me?
I'm going to theoretically putting my arms on the listener's arms right now.
There we go.
Okay. So this is the story of the USS Indianapolis. I'm pulling from the Britannica article and the true story behind the USS Indianapolis monologue in Jaws by Ryan McLaughlin. So essentially most of what Quint says is true, or at least the provable parts are true.
Okay.
So the USS Indianapolis was a U.S. Navy heavy cruiser active during World War II. It was tasked with delivering parts for, quote, Little Boy, which is the code name for the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after delivering this cargo to the Mariana Islands, the ship made a stop in Guam, then headed for the Philippines. On July 30th, 1945, the ship was hit by 2 torpedoes from a Japanese submarine and sank in 12 minutes.
Ooh.
So in the movie, Quint says 1,100 men on board. There were actually 1,200 men on board.
Okay.
Around 900 of them survived the sinking. So that is
not a good number.
No, it's not. That's 300 dying in the initial torpedo hit in those 12 minutes, then 900 men going into the water.
Right.
They had very little supplies other than just life jackets, and there were a few life rafts, but that was about it.
Did they have any little children that they could use to get into the life rafts?
They did not. No.
Okay.
Nor children that they could use to, swim faster than. So yeah,
right. Okay.
Right.
So they're fucked.
Exactly. And due to the top secret nature of their mission and some other communication errors, I don't know if we know exactly why this happened, but the ship wasn't reported missing. This crash did not go up on the radar. Yeah.
Shit.
The survivors were found by accident 4 days later.
4 days?
4 days, yes. Yeah. Can you imagine just like being in the water like that?
Let me just tread water for 4 days.
In the fucking ocean.
Like, also, like, it's really hard to shit in the water when you're just floating over open ocean like that. That would just be like so stressful.
Exactly.
Well, you just paddle over and take your number 2 and then paddle back over.
Trust me, I have had like
You've tried to poop in the water?
Because I have had like diarrhea on the ocean and like my body will like not let me do it. So like I still have the feeling of diarrhea, but like my body will not evacuate.
Okay,
close up shop.
I was in a work meeting and my boss stood up in front of us and told us a story about shitting in the ocean, but then snorkelers came by, so we had to karate chop all the dookie. And we were seriously in the middle of this meeting like, what the fuck are we talking
We're just like, what are you doing, man? You're supposed to karate chop picket fences,
exactly.
not poop in the ocean.
Ocean poop. No.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I
back
feel like
to
we've
the horrifying
gotten deep.
Exactly. Okay, so they were found 4 days later by a passing naval aircraft. Only 316 men were still alive. So
Shit.
that's
So
nearly
600
600
died,
dead. Yeah.
Whoa.
Now, we know that the waters were shark infested.
Right.
We don't know exactly what happened here. Nearly
Cannibalism.
I mean, look, I love a cannibalism story. And I mean, I'm not going to rule it out, but probably it was a combination of dehydration, drowning, exposure, and shark attacks because you're in the ocean for a long time and you can't drink salt water. So,
nope.
So the Navy did not report the incident until Japan surrendered on August 15th also.
Is that because the sinking, or the ship at least, was tied to the atomic bomb? So they were like, this is
top secret.
Yeah, like information we don't want to give to the enemy?
Maybe. I think so. And I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I think this also kind of looks like a fuck up and they didn't necessarily want to admit that. But I think that the pieces of the bomb played a heavy hand in what's going to happen also, because most of the people on board didn't know that they were carrying this cargo either. It was like, we have cargo for you to deliver. It's important, but they didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
So in the aftermath, the ship's captain, Charles B. McVeigh III, he became the only ship's captain to be court-martialed due to losses during a war.
Oh, come on.
Seriously. He was found guilty of failing to evade the sub using a zigzag motion.
Oh, come on.
Uh-huh.
Jesus.
But was found not guilty of failing to give an order to evacuate the ship soon enough. And I mean, we're talking about 12 minutes, so,
Right.
So he had that one guilty conviction and the other not guilty. He didn't end up serving any time, but he did die by suicide in 1968.
Oh.
Many believe that he was a scapegoat. And
of course.
Exactly. Yeah. And that I think the fact that this was connected to dropping an atomic bomb, I think that's part of the reason that they didn't notify anybody about the crash. They weren't paying attention,
Yeah.
There's also evidence that they knew there was a Japanese submarine in the area and they did not warn him also. So it could have been they wanted the evidence gone.
Wow.
So, I know. And I mean, that's my speculation.
It's
I don't
conspiracy,
know.
but also it seems reasonable.
I mean, the U.S. government would never lie to us, right? So,
never, historically.
But he was officially exonerated in 2001. So
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's a long time later.
It is a long time later. Yeah. Many, many, many years after his death. So, but that is the true story of USS Indianapolis, and it is horrifying.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did get a movie out of it with Nicolas Cage that was apparently terrible.
That's true.
Really?
Yeah. It was like in 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, God. Nicolas Cage and his... Oh, my God, Jen, we could just do a Nicolas Cage true crime month because he's also in that 9/11 movie.
I mean, let's do it. Is Raising Arizona a true story? I think.
Don't
The Rock,
think
maybe?
so.
Con Air?
Yeah, maybe The Rock. Yeah, yeah.
Good Lord. Also, though, this Indianapolis movie with Nick Cage, 2016, by the way, but also has Tom Sizemore and Thomas Jane.
Thomas
Perfect.
Jane!
Mm-hmm.
He just wants his kids back.
Speaking of shark connections.
Exactly. Oh, his arms in that movie, man.
And Cage plays McVeigh.
Oh.
Of course he does.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, y'all. And the director of this Indianapolis movie with Nick Cage is Mario Van Peebles.
No.
Who famously, maybe infamously, plays Michael's best friend Jake in Jaws the Revenge.
No.
It truly is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon,
This
isn't it?
thing goes all the way to the top. Yes. Also, I have not seen Jaws the Revenge, but...
Really?
No,
I haven't either.
God, I've seen it a lot.
But I've
the
seen the
Michael
beach
Caine
house it
one?
bought me.
Yeah,
Oh
it is the shortest Jaws film. It's a flat 90 minutes.
Okay. Well,
but I think
that's
I
a
want
win.
to say two or three people die. But Jen, that means you don't know the opening kill of that movie.
Oh. What's
What is
the
it?
open? Don't tell me.
Yeah,
I'm
do
going to
you
watch
want
it.
to know?
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I know it.
Yeah, you should watch it. Yeah, it really crushed me as a child.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited now.
What a selling point. All right, so we have had this lovely moment of male bonding, emotional vulnerability from Quint, and it's the middle of the night and we've been drinking, so we should probably... Oh, fuck, the shark is attacking.
I forgot all about this scene, by the way.
Me too.
Which is wild, because I think this is a hugely effective scene.
Yeah.
Because their boat's gonna sink.
Right.
Truly.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's still dark, too.
That's the thing that scares me. Like, I could not handle a shark attack during the day either, but at least then you kind of know what's coming. Whereas at night, the idea of something ramming you, the boat sinking, and then just being in the dark in the water.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, this is why I don't go on boats, you know?
Well, also because the water's flooding their engine, so their engine is, even if they don't sink, they're going to lose engine function, which is like, you're in the middle of nowhere. You better, and you're gonna get taken out further to sea. Which that was actually the one thing from Quint's speech that I really latched onto from this time, where he said, I'm never gonna wear a life jacket again, and it was because he'd rather just drown.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Than just float there endlessly in nothing, And I know that's one thing that is so harrowing about open water, too. It's just the idea of being in the middle of the fucking ocean. There's nothing around you in any direction, because beneath you is just like this vast ocean of emptiness where any monster could come and get you.
Oh, man. Jen, we are going to have so much fun because you said
I know.
open water, and that is one of the movies we're going to talk about on Murder Made Fiction.
Did y'all catch this before we switch to day? We get a shooting star effect in the sky.
Oh.
Twice.
No.
Interesting.
I've never caught it before, but yeah, there's a shot of Brody where he's looking at something, and you just see a very obvious shooting star just shoot behind him.
Huh. Well, I think every time a barrel goes into a shark, a shooting star gets its
a star gets shot.
Yeah. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. It's science, man.
yeah.
We're shark scientists.
Okay, so yes, the shark is attacking, the boat is taking on water, we do get this fire. I love how casual Quint is. Chief, put out that fire, will you? So the lights go out, Quint is shooting at the shark, which is, I guess, fine, but even when Brody does it later with his tiny gun, I was just like, folks, I don't think that's going to get the job done.
No. Yeah, you're going to need a bigger gun also.
Truly, yeah. But ultimately, we do end up surviving the night, so we transition back into our second day out on the water. Hooper and Quint are making repairs. This is when the barrel reappears, so we grab the boat hook to try to fish it out of the water. This is where Quint ends up burning his hands, or rather getting them cut up on the rope. I love that he anticipates this could happen, and then it just kind of immediately does.
Yeah, and it's like you should drop it, but you can't react that fast.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Also, that fucking hurts if you've ever had that happen on your hands.
Oh, it stings like a motherfucker. Yeah. So Brody tries to use this opportunity to call the mainland, and Quint, instead of... This is peak Quint being like, no, we're going to do this ourselves. I've got this. So he just smashes the radio to bits.
Dude, this is Jack smashing the radio in The Shining. Too,
Yeah.
Truly.
Well, it's before that, but yes.
Well, that's true, too.
No. And this is the moment, honestly, of where if you were endeared to Quint at all, this is the moment where I'm like,
nope, it's back. I hate you again.
Okay, and this is toxic masculinity, too.
Well, because he doesn't want help. He doesn't want help killing the shark. To the point where I was like, Brody is understandably enraged. But then we let go of it because I guess we have a shark. But I'm like, I would have pushed this motherfucker overboard.
Oh my God. I would have been so irate because even if Quint truly does believe that it'll be fine, we're going to get the job done. If I'm Brody, I don't know if I believe that at this moment. We narrowly escaped sinking last night.
Yeah.
How do we know what comes next?
Absolutely. And this thing is fucking huge. And I wonder, I think this is like a masculine moment. I don't want anybody to get my glory, but he also is the only one who has financial gain here too.
Right.
So
right?
I think maybe he's like, I don't want to split my pot. But I think at this point.
Matt would get in National Geographic.
Well, that's true. In the National Geographic. Yeah.
The National
You'd
Geographic.
love that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
With all them titties, yeah. Okay, so we hit the shark with a second harpoon and barrel combination, and this is when we proceed to give chase. So we've got our very jaunty score. I appreciate what both of you were saying. I just don't like this. This to me is tantamount to Last House on the Left, the Wes Craven edition. It just it doesn't work in support of the film. It makes it feel like we're doing too much of a jaunty action film.
It does feel like a pretty big tonal shift, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
I do like it.
But I did write the score is jovial here.
Yes.
It's a little too much.
Yeah. Now, it's not quite a sea chanty, but I think it also kind of harkens back to that moment on the water where like none of those people are going to make it out of the harbor alive. Like it's a fun moment too.
It is a fun moment. And I understand too, like mentally, I understand that you can't do tense all the time in a horror film. You need the peaks and valleys because that's what makes whichever one is the scary one. I guess the peak is the scare. Anyway, you need levels because if not, like people can't be tense for 2 hours. So I appreciate that we need to change the tone up. I think this is too strong.
Going back to your Lessons Love's comparison, actually, would it work if someone actually did die or something bad happened during one of these moments of jovial score?
I don't know. Maybe. It would definitely feel like it was... Yeah, I don't know.
We'll never know because it didn't happen, but...
Well, that's true. I think part of me reads this moment, too, as like John Williams gonna John Williams. Like, it looks gorgeous out here on the ocean, and this is a moment of like windswept, like boatmanship, too. So part of me is like, did he just want to like write some sea shit, you know?
Maybe. I mean, it's a nice moment of getting back to that unifying force, right? Like, okay, sure, the radio is fucking gone, but we are on a mission. Like, maybe we can end this right now because we are in pursuit of this thing. I mean, we've got it on the run.
I guess, but then while the engine room is smoking, Quinn's just putting more pressure on it. It's just like, do you want to die? I mean,
I mean, maybe he does.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's not smoking too badly just yet. That comes later.
Well, it hasn't fully exploded.
Luckily, we do see land by the time it really starts smoking.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is where Brody asks for clarification. Like, why are we going further out? Why are we letting it lead us out further as opposed to drawing it in? And, you know, I don't know that Quint really gives him an answer too much because if anything, we get confirmation that the shark is really fucking strong because when we try to pull these lines in, all of a sudden the shark is dragging the boat down and like these cleats are starting to get pulled out of the wood and so on. So it's really a nice moment of this shark is so much stronger and maybe smarter than you ever gave it credit for.
And we have these constant moments too of like Quint and Hooper just saying, like, I've never seen a great white do this before.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something different. And I love it. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. We're taking off. We're going on our adventure.
It's thrilling.
It is.
Yeah,
it's thrilling.
it is thrilling.
And it's moving, too. You know, we are physically moving. So, but I don't know if Quint totally knows what to do at this point, too. I think he is
I think he's taken aback, right? Because, as we said, this isn't normal behavior. So what do I do when all of my regular routines don't work, right?
Exactly.
Like, I've never had to use a machete to cut these ropes before because I've never nearly been pulled in.
But in true Ahab fashion, I feel like he likes the challenge.
Yeah, and I think I did just talk about how there doesn't feel like there is toxicity in this masculinity. I do feel it from Quint occasionally. He's really the only one I see it from. And this is one of those moments where it's like, I can't really admit I don't know what to do.
I guess the thing, though, is like, I never feel like Quint is doing this to like get up at the other guys. It's always a challenge he's imposing on himself.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and the shark. It does feel very Ahab.
I cannot believe that we have not mentioned it until this point.
I know. I just think it's really obvious. Like, it's a very obvious.
Yeah.
Like, Quint is obviously the Ahab figure of this film.
Also, I've never read that book. Have y'all read it?
I've seen the TV movie with Elijah Wood and Patrick Stewart.
Hold on. Elijah Wood is in Moby Dick? What?
Yeah, it's like an ABC miniseries. It's Patrick Stewart as Ahab and Elijah Wood as Ishmael.
Okay.
Wait, do you think that director who got fired, do you think he was conflating this?
Maybe.
Because whale?
The whale, yeah.
That's probably it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Great white whale, great white shark, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, now I'm going to watch Elijah Wood, Moby Dick, too. So.
Okay, so we cut the ropes loose and Brody is really worried that we're going to sink, but Quint is like adamant, don't worry, it's fine. We've got 3 fucking barrels attached to this thing, so it is not going to be able to submerge. It is not going to get the better of us. It proceeds to do just that. And this is where Quint decides, I'm out of my depth. So I'm going to turn around and we are going to make for land as fast as possible. And this is where we do blow out the engine.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, Jen. It's Henry Thomas, not Elijah Wood as Ishmael.
Lies.
Okay, I do like Henry Thomas too.
Sure.
But we've also got Ted Levine and Gregory Peck in it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm back on board.
$20 million USA TV movie.
And about a whale and some men.
Yikes. All right, so Quint and Hooper are definitely bickering about, like, you should not be pushing the engine this hard. And then, of course, it ultimately gives out. We do get this tense moment where the explosion occurs and it nearly takes out Hooper's head. He gets away with just a graze on the forehead, but this could have been disastrous. But the ship is definitely now sinking, so like no denying it. The ship is going down. So Hooper says, okay, well, it's time for me to bring this anti-shark cage out because why else did we bring it? You can't bring an anti-shark cage into a movie and not use it. Right. So he's got this strychnine spear that he proposes he will throw into the shark's mouth and that will kill it. All we got to do is get set up. So we get a cutie little montage and then Hooper goes down in the cage. And I want to say, I appreciate that the head in the boat earlier with Hooper and Brody is good. This moment where the shark comes out of nowhere and hits the cage was the biggest jump scare of the film for me.
Yeah.
Same.
To me, if I would... What I would love to see in a movie like this is the shark coming up from the bottom. Like you look down, like because you can see through the bottom of the cage, and you just see the shark coming up, mouth open, like to try to like swallow the cage whole.
I can't remember. Do we see something like that in one of the 47 Meters Down movies?
I feel like we do. I've only watched Uncaged recently because I feel like the original one's not screen. I mean, I've seen the original. It just hasn't been streaming in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we do see a little bit of that with John Corbett, although I'm just thinking about when the shark jumps out of the water.
That's the thing is you're not seeing you're not looking down and seeing the shark come up.
Right.
And we're not in the open ocean either. We're in, in the first one we are.
Also, talk about great movies, man. I fucking love those movies.
Dude, both of those are good.
They're such bangers. People write them off like popcorn. You're just like, yeah, because they're great popcorn.
Exactly.
The first one is I find legitimately terrifying and like claustrophobic. I like feel my chest tightening watching that movie.
Those red light sequences.
And then the second movie is like a camp-tastic Friday the 13th film with sharks.
It's so cheeky.
It is so much fun. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, okay, so back to this cage moment. I think the thing that always gets me, sorry.
No, bring us back, please.
Like, I remember Quint's death. I forget about this moment.
Well, I also wonder if, because again, a lot of people had read the book before they saw this movie. If they were surprised and or disappointed that Hooper doesn't die here.
Oh,
I could see it. If you were a big fan of this book, and obviously people were, it was its own cultural phenomenon. Yeah. You would go into this movie expecting Hooper to die. So when he doesn't, I could imagine people saying, this is a creative choice. I'm not sure if I agree with it.
Is this a Ghost in the Machine kind of thing, too?
Yeah.
But I like that he survives because I like this Hooper way better than Book Hooper.
Well, because I think in this scene, too, you might actually think he does die because it's quick to realize he swims to the bottom. So when he does pop up at the end, it's kind of like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's almost like a secondary jump scare.
Yeah.
Well, and I honestly think it would be too much if we lost both Quint and Hooper.
Yes.
Like, in some ways, it hurts more to lose the person who is so experienced, who should have known better. Like, it's satisfying in that way where you realize, oh, the person who really thought he was in control of the situation is, of course, the one who dies. Yeah. And the two more novice people, or the people who are less experienced about catching sharks, ultimately survive. So I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. But I also think that with Quint, there's this hubris here where he thought that he would be able to take this down. He thought, I know the sea, I can do it all. And Brody and Hooper from the beginning have been the only two who have actually taken this threat seriously. So it does feel very satisfying that they both get to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, though, I mean, even now knowing that the footage of the shark on top of this cage, because I'd forgotten most of this sequence, but especially that part, that felt brand new on this rewatch. And I think it is so visually striking. Yeah. So, Hooper has managed to escape because shark versus cage, shark won, cage lost.
Right.
And then they try to pull it up. But of course, with the extra weight of this giant fucking shark, it just pulls the winch right off of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting stuff.
Yes.
And then Bruce is just like, hey, I'm going to say hi. So let me just hop on board this sinking ship.
Apparently, so this is called breaching, by the way. And breaching is a very common behavior for great white sharks. But
oh my God. What?
Never on a boat.
Okay.
It basically breaching means it's always a surefire kill. Like they are about to kill something. And so usually it's like, there's a sea lion up there. So they are like jumping up out of the water to eat this thing.
Okay.
Have y'all seen Planet Earth where the sharks jump completely out of the water to get these seals? It is so cool.
No, I've only seen Dangerous Animals where the seal in question is Jai Courtney.
Oh, I have not seen Dangerous Animals yet, but I want to.
Oh, God, sorry, Jen.
I'm glad you mentioned Planet Earth. I've had a friend who since high school has been trying to get me to watch all of Planet Earth. And I'm just
Planet Earth is incredible.
No,
I've watched it through like
so
5
beautiful.
times.
I've heard it's amazing. I've heard it's amazing.
Here's where I watch it. I watch it while I'm editing and I turn the sound off. And so I'm just looking at it. So
It's like the most beautiful screensaver.
It really is, yeah.
Okay, not the most beautiful screensaver is Quint basically water sliding down into the shark's mouth.
Yep.
And yes, I know everybody, the shark doesn't look realistic. It looks like a robotic shark. I don't fucking care. Watching this man go into this 3 rows of teeth and just lose the entire bottom half of his body is amazing.
Yes, when the blood starts coming out of his mouth, too.
So, yeah, I remember the first time I saw this. I don't get queasy in movies, but I remember again, like as a 5 or 6 year old watching this, I remember nearly vomiting.
A lot.
Well, whenever Quint has the blood pop out, I remember nearly vomiting. It was something that stuck with me for a long time, where I had nightmares, not about the shark in this movie, about the blood coming out of Quint's mouth in this movie.
Yeah.
That's the other scene that has kept me from watching this with my kids. I almost put it on in the living room earlier today, and I was like, but what if it's Quint's death?
How old are your kids?
Yeah.
10 and almost 13. So they probably.
It's a tricky. They might be okay.
Yeah, but they're.
I mean, the
don't know.
13-year-old.
Yeah, they'd probably be okay. But we're about to go to Lake Michigan, so
Do it.
I don't want to freak them out. Maybe we'll watch it in the fall.
As we said, more of a Halloween film if you're looking to not be scared by it.
Absolutely, yes. If that's what you're looking for on Halloween is to not be scared, Jaws is perfect.
Yeah.
But I also, sorry, one more thing. I think sharks, because sharks just happen to look very unreal, they're very sleek, they're not very like animated animals, I do think we can get away with it looking a little bit fake, because sharks just themselves look kind of fake, there's not a lot to them.
But this is also just a thing where I'm just like, again, like whatever, man, there's like 2 minutes left of this movie.
Exactly.
Sure.
Well, and I want to see the fucking shark eat somebody too.
I don't care.
Absolutely.
But that goes back to what do we always say about 80s monster movies, where it's like, I would give me a thing that clearly looks like a fake monster, but it's at least a real physical thing. It's not animated. It's not CGI.
What if for the 50th anniversary they just redid the entire thing with all CGI sharks, so you get to see it all?
so like what Spielberg did with E.T., where he swaps out the guns for walking. He's like, I'm going to swap out the real shark for CGI sharks.
Exactly. Yeah,
well, it sounds like something that George Lucas would do.
It sure does.
I mean, here's the thing: you're joking, Jen, but think about the number one reason that people. I'm broadly generalizing, but I feel like the main reason that horror fans don't love shark movies, at least contemporary shark movies, is because we put $0 budgets into the special effects. So we barely get any shark. And when we do, it shows up and looks fake as fuck.
Exactly. And you are not Steven Spielberg, and you're not pulling off the shark is actually underwater the whole time. And just because we can't see it, it's there. Yeah.
And yet, as of this recording, like we just got Dangerous Animals, and we have like 2 other shark movies on the theatrically released ones on the way.
Always shark movies on the way.
But I feel like we're used to getting...
You're talking bigger ones.
Yeah, like bigger ones that are going to go to theaters, And
Ooh, nice.
To me, I think one of the best CGI sharks that I've seen in recent-ish memory is the one in The Shallows. I think the one in The Shallows...
Oh, yeah. I like The Shallows.
is great.
Yeah.
I like Shark Night, too. Shark Night's got some fun sharks.
Jen,
I love that movie.
No.
Joe, you gotta
Jen.
rewatch that. He has told me many times it was his worst film.
It was my
of the year
worst
that year.
film of 2013.
But like,
It's so bad.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot of fun. I wish it wasn't PG-13, but like, there's a lot of fun in that movie. When that guy gets on the jet ski, like,
Yes!
that's a great kill.
It is. It's so much
I'll
fun.
confess, yeah, I've only seen it the one time. I was very unforgiving of it because I think I wanted to be scared and it was just very silly and
yeah, it's very
stupid.
silly.
But also, I think that Sarah Paxton is just such a wet fucking blanket of a lead in that movie. She's nothing.
I forgot that she's in that. We just talked about
Yeah, Jen, that's the
other day.
problem.
Catherine McPhee too, man. Catherine McPhee should have been the lead of that movie. And I like Sarah Paxton, but I mean, also
sure.
like
I like both of them.
It's
They're
the sharks
just
for me.
nothing
That's
to do.
all I
yeah,
care
no
about,
character
you
in the
know.
movie really pops except the
No.
asshole guys.
And the sharks.
Yeah. And the sharks. Okay, so speaking of the shark
Sorry.
in this moment with Quint, just because I really struggled to try to think if there was some interesting reading of this, because I've seen some people say this movie is inherently masculine because it's about these three men who go out in close proximity on this boat and leave all these women behind. And then the shark is the embodiment of like Mother Nature. So this is like a women fighting back. So there's a vagina dentata kind of vibe to it, right?
We love
Because
to see it.
we should know the shark literally before like sort of killing Quint and dragging him off, we bite him right through the crotch. Like we amputate both legs, but it's at the crotch level. So this feels, well, like a little emasculating for Quint, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought we have confirmed throughout the entire movie that this shark is male. So part of me is
a gay
like,
shark.
can we do not even like, yeah, like I didn't want to make a joke out of it because I kind of wanted to see if there was a way to tease it out, but I never fully got there because I don't know if there's something more to it. But it just felt significant that this is such a male dominated film down to the fucking shark, which of course we name Bruce in the physical shooting of the film. And then it's like, yeah, you know, this man who is the embodiment of queerness and isolation ends up being the one who gets it really bad so that we can then leave the two younger men to paddle off into the fucking dawn together.
I do love that moment.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah,
do you like fish sticks?
I don't actually.
Oh,
but-
fuck. Jen, do you like fish sticks?
I like fish sticks. Yes.
What are you, a gay fish?
Classic. That's a bit of a dad joke, isn't it?
It's a whole South Park joke because
There we go.
Because Kanye West doesn't get it, and he gets really mad that people think he's a gay fish.
In fact, the only person who appears to not get the joke is rapper Kanye West, who becomes furious when people use the joke on him.
Yo, that is messed up, yo. I am not gay, and I sure as hell ain't no fish, all right?
Jeez.
I mean, that checks out, you know.
That also sounds like a South Park joke. So
Yes, it does.
Okay, let's wrap this up. So Brody is now by himself, or so he thinks, because Hooper is out of the picture. And so the boat is very much sunk. Like the orca is going down. So he climbs up into the crow's nest. He positions himself horizontally. So he's got the best shot because, of course, the compressed air can is now in the shark's mouth.
If he doesn't make this shot, he will die.
Yeah. He will
100%.
sink into the shark's mouth in like a matter of moments.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So.
But he's fucking Brody. Of course he's going to make it.
It's fucking Brody. This is his moment to shine, right? This is the moment he becomes a man.
Yes.
The editing in this sequence is masterful too. Like
it's great.
it builds tension so wonderfully, and I don't even care that this thing is still in the shark's mouth. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
No. It's just trapped by his teeth, you know?
It's also one of those things where you know he's going to make the shot. You
Right.
know this is going to be some satisfying explosion. And it doesn't matter. Like the predictability, the familiarity with it. Maybe it wasn't back in 1975, but like we've seen this a billion times in other shark movies and other creature feature movies by this point. So it shouldn't work because you're like, oh my God, I've seen it all before. But it's so well done. Whether you're seeing it for the first time or the 50th time, doesn't matter. Still effective.
Well, and I think this is where that John T. music earlier comes in too, because like I can't imagine all three of them dying with in a movie with that John T. music. It's like we are setting a somewhat safe tone where we are going to have a triumphant ending, even though we might lose some people along the way.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then shark go boom.
Sharko boom. Yeah.
Sharko boom. Hooper comes up at like the exact moment afterwards where you just think, wow, Matt, thanks for making me do all of the heavy lifting myself.
Do you think that if the shark didn't explode, he would just kind of swim off?
Right, just quietly, swim away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he'd be a fucking USS Indianapolis out there. He gets to relive
That's
Quint's
true.
memory.
Well, or the shark would just eat him,
Well,
wow.
yeah. He'd be the guy Quint talked about where they lifted it up and his whole bottom half was gone.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. One way or another. If that shark didn't go boom, he was going to meet a bad fate.
Fish sticks,
Well, actually, question for
Gay
both
fish
of you.
sticks, yeah.
Would you rather stay down and just drown down at the bottom of the ocean with your scuba tank?
No.
Or would you just go up and get eaten by the shark?
Eaten by a shark, I think.
I would try to go for it. Like, because here's the thing. Maybe you could outswim it. Maybe the shark gets distracted by a party boat on the horizon or something. I don't know.
I'd be staying on the floor, though. I'd be like, I'm just gonna like shuffle along the floor, like crawl on the seafloor and hope I make it to shore in time.
See, here's the thing, though. I have heard from several people that like drowning is one of the most painful and frightening ways to die.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to getting eaten by a shark,
I mean,
I don't know.
Well,
they both sound awful.
They do both sound awful. Like, I would choose neither, for the record.
Sure.
You'd have to hope that like the shark bite like kind of instantly kills you.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. But I mean, that does none of his victims. When the shark murders people, he takes his time.
Yeah.
Truly. When he uses his shark knife teeth.
Exactly. With his premeditated shark murder.
Well, even hearing the real case, one of the things we talked about this right off the top, it's so disturbing is that it's not like, oh, the sharks chomp down on these people and then they just die. It's like, no, we strip the flesh off one of their legs and then you bleed to death.
Exactly. So
that's awful.
It feels like just a different way of drowning, because it's going to be slow and painful,
Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to worry about that for either
don't.
Hooper or Brody because, we've got some extra barrels, we've got some wood from the orca, and we paddle our way to safety. And, I guess everything works out.
Yay.
Definitely don't have to worry about another shark ever interfering with our lives.
Nope, definitely not one that's going to want revenge.
No.
I will say, this final line reading, I love. I can't imagine why. I just love the way he says it. It's so much fun.
I think I used to be afraid of the water.
I can't imagine why.
And then this movie is out.
And then we're done.
And then we're done.
Jaws movies love to just be like, movie's over. Get the fuck out.
I'm always like, I'd like to see some of the aftermath of this, please.
Yeah.
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 But that is Jaws, everybody.
It's Jaws. Jaws at 50.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whew.
Jen, as the guest of honor, any final thoughts on this film?
I just love this movie. I think it's so like visually stunning. As I watch these scenes, especially like the beach scenes with so much color, I just I drink in all of the scenery. I love the way Spielberg shoots it all too. Like sometimes his style bugs me a little bit, but here I really love it. I love all the scenes on the water. Like in particular, this one where Quint is just standing at the end of the bow or whatever it is, that thing that I would never stand on because a shark would eat me if I was on that.
Sure.
And we're just like looking at the sunset. Like I think it's just gorgeous. And sharks are my favorite animal. And this movie is the reason why. They're so cool. And this movie is awesome. And I love it.
Sharks are the coolest animals. They're my favorite.
They are.
This movie is fucking terrifying.
Exactly. But that's part of why I love it. I used to have the shirt that said Sharp Swimmer. And I like that they're so powerful and scary too. And also that I don't live in the water, so I'm relatively safe.
You don't have to worry as much.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas alligators, fuck those things.
Oh my God. We have talked about this, and also you keep mistaking alligators and crocodiles.
For crocodiles. There's no way to tell them apart. So.
Is one more aggressive? No, it's the teeth. It's the teeth and the snout.
It's the teeth and the snout. She's joking because we had a full episode on it.
I hate them. Yeah, but sharks can't go on land like alligators too.
Unless you're an SNL.
That's true. Fuck, yeah. I guess no one is safe. Or if they're breaching, I think. What is that?
Yeah, there we go.
Breaching.
There we go. Basically, just stay out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, as I said, I think that this is a solid film. It just doesn't have that nostalgia element for me in the way that it does for other people. So it's not one that I frequently revisit. And I do think if I'm going to pick up a Jaws film, it'll probably be number 2 because it is just a little bit more exciting. Mm-hmm. But it was really nice to have this conversation with the two of you because it forced me to sit down and think, okay, if you're going to complain about this classic of horror cinema, you need to be able to back up some things. And I think it helped me to realize it's not that I don't like the movie. It's just not one that I return to all that often.
You need to go to a Jaws in the Water screening.
Ooh.
You know what? I would fucking do that in a heartbeat.
I would too, especially if it's in a pool. And I know there are no sharks.
Oh no, you're on a lake in Austin.
Nope. Sorry, I'm out.
But that's where the anacondas are.
Yes.
They do Jaws every year, but there was 1 year they did all the sequels. So I was lucky enough to get I got to see Jaws 2 on the water 1 year.
Oh,
really
see, there you go.
Yeah.
My friend had one of those portable gigantic screens, and she would go around to different community pools, and she would either do Jaws or Dolphin Tail. Those were the ones she always got requested.
Like you don't know which one you're going to get. It could be this or it could be this.
Right.
Love it. I don't have anything to add. Good movie is good.
Yeah, there we go.
Before we announce what we're covering next week, everyone, Jen, let everyone know, where can they find you online?
Well, if you enjoyed the primers that we talked about in this episode, you can find me on Murder Made Fiction with Joe, and you can find me at Jen Ferratu on social media.
Woo, that's Jen with 2 N's.
2 N's, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, then some quick housekeeping for us before we sign off. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our HorrorQueers Discord. The link is in the show notes. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you will get 398 hours of Patreon content.
Holy shit.
Kissing 400.
Including this month's new episodes on Squid Game Season 3, Dangerous Animals, Megan 2.0, I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025 edition, and a brand new audio commentary on Species for its 30th anniversary. And even though we're not dropping new content on our Requel tier, you can still listen to episode-by-episode recaps of The Last of Us Season 2 if you missed them back in May.
Also, I love the fact that we're getting so many sequels with numbers that we're going to cover this month, so that's kind of fun.
But Joe, what are we covering next week?
Well, like a shark, we're just going to flip over to the left and do something completely fucking different next week.
Just like a shark.
That was a terrible, terrible segue. But we're really going to switch gears. We're going to jaunt over to France so that we can talk about some lesbian vampires. And we're going to talk about Fascination from 1979.
I've never heard of this movie, and I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, it's Jean Rollins' most famous film. So he did a ton of lesbian vampire movies, and this is apparently his most well-regarded one.
I don't know who that is, and I'm so intrigued.
Okay, you know what? We're going to figure it out together.
Yes, everyone, come with us. It's been a while since we've covered lesbian vampires, so it's
Truly.
We're overdue.
Yes, exactly that.
Well, everyone, on that note, and until next week, we can cross out Jaws for its 50th anniversary.
Oh my God, I love how you made it sound like we're going to cover Jaws again next week. We're not going to do that. But yes, we will also cross out Horror Queers.
Running a business can be exhausting. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI. From site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want. And manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.